One Empress Olivia made Austin her useless husband because she needed a harmless stranger to block a political marriage. He had arrived in her bedroom straight from Earth. His own assassin guild wanted him dead for retiring. She did not know he was the strongest assassin alive. Next, a supreme system tried to bind him. He refused. It failed 9,999 times, then glitched. Assistant Olivia promised food, money, royal status, and absolutely zero work, a contract. Ring on his wrist was supposed to keep her safe from him. Exposure would ruin everything. Strong men got armies, missions, enemies, and endless meetings. Austin wanted breakfast in a locked bedroom door, so the question was simple: could he stay harmless while this entire world kept choosing the worst possible person to provoke? 6 minutes earlier, he was still on Earth running across a rain-soaked refinery roof. His assassin guild treated retirement like betrayal. He had spent his childhood killing targets other people chose. At 27, he wanted peace, and the guild sent its best cleanup team to correct his attitude. A blade cut the air behind his neck. He ducked, kicked one killer through a railing, and kept moving. Their retirement package included live steel, quite a supportive workplace. Fighting all of them would have bought the guild time to bring restraints. He wanted out, so he ran toward the demolition charges flashing. Below, the roof exploded. For 1 white second, gravity forgot his address. Then he landed on a bed. Seconds later, in a royal bedroom at the palace in Brighton, he found a woman standing over a glowing summoning circle. Her name was Olivia Harcourt. She ruled the Brighton Empire, and she had dragged a stranger across worlds because her court wanted to choose her husband. She wore a dark silk robe and looked him over with open suspicion. She was also dangerously gorgeous. In his defense, he had just survived an explosion, so he stared longer than necessary. Olivia raised one hand. Golden energy flickered under her skin, then faded. State your name, Olivia ordered. Austin Carile. He looked round for the killers. Where did the refinery go? Olivia ignored that excellent question. Her eyes moved over his clothes, his empty hands, and his very average-looking body. Good, she decided. He appeared harmless. That was rude. Accurate for about 3 more minutes, though. Olivia told him her prime minister had been pushing a political marriage. A husband from outside Brighton had no family, faction, or claim on her throne. She needed a harmless husband with a pleasant face. Then she delivered the greatest employment offer in human history. He would be her husband and prince. Olivia declared he would receive food, wealth, attendance, and permanent residence. He would have no governing duties. He sat up. No duties, none, Olivia confirmed. No military command, he pressed. None, Olivia repeated. And no speeches, he added. Olivia's mouth twitched. Austin, you are becoming more attractive. By the question, he dropped backward onto her pillows. Your Majesty, this marriage already has communication. She stared at him for 2 full seconds. Then Olivia pointed at the door. There would be no marital intimacy. He called it a cruel amendment. Olivia answered he would survive. He told her he usually did. Olivia showed him the silver ring around his wrist. The summoning ritual normally rooted that ring into a servant's life force. Its rule was plain. He could never harm the summoner, yet the control ring feels loose on his skin. Olivia promised lifelong support, strictly reminding him of their bedroom boundary. Then she leaves for court before he can even negotiate dessert. The door shuts. A cold voice echoes inside his head, announcing a supreme system connection. It demands he accept the bond to begin his path to ultimate power. He just stares. He says no. The voice pauses, stating his host's refusal is invalid. 20 years spent getting strong enough to retire. Go find someone with actual ambition. The system issues a cold warning: accept, or all of his memories get erased. That gets him off the bed. He was already owned by one organization in his past. A glowing voice with confidence issues is not getting a turn. He dares it to try. Pressure closes around his mind as the contract ring flashes. Both forces reach. They reach for something deep inside him, but both slip. The system tries again. The counter flashes so fast that the endless repeated failures blur together. At attempt 9,999, the pressure snaps. Whispering that his Earth origin authority exceeds local permissions, he waits. The supreme system humbles its tone, begging to permit its continued existence. What a wild turn. The universe's final boss has to apply for an internship. He asks what it offers. The system lists storage, translation, and scanning. Rewards, protection, and entertainment. Entertainment, he repeats. Anime access is available, the system confirms. He considers this very seriously. He decides it can stay as his assistant. It is a fair deal. The system thanks him, calling him master. He names it Baxter on a whim. Suddenly, the name slips out. He refuses to examine why, and Baxter wisely avoids asking. When he lets out a heavy sigh, every plant beside the window suddenly turns gray. They instantly vanish. He freezes, mouth wide open, as Baxter speaks very carefully. Baxter warns him to suppress his breathing, calling it a basic function. Earth compressed his body under far heavier dimensional laws than Brighton does. Now those restraints are gone. His current strength, speed, and senses are limitless. Everything exceeds local measurements. Baxter also detects ancient dragon lineage in his blood. It is older than Brighton's heavenly law, meaning the system cannot even classify it. That is all the explanation he needs. The dead flowers already proved the point. Baxter confirms that the summoning ring never actually managed to root. Neither the summoning ritual nor the system can classify his Earth origin soul. The ring is just costume jewelry with delusions. He needs a harmless test. So he heads to the palace training hall and picks up a sword. The blade immediately snaps at the handle. A nearby guard calls it a rank 6 weapon. One of Brighton's finest blades. The guard looks betrayed as he grabs a second. Touching the edge with just one finger, it shatters in 3 places. These weapons are defective, he announces. Baxter speaks up inside his head. Both weapons were actually excellent. He likes his own excuse much better. Poor power control is threatening his retirement before breakfast. He escaped assassins, survived explosions, and even bullied a supreme system. Yet a simple door handle could still expose his terrifying strength. Humbling, the next morning in Olivia's bedroom, he wakes beneath soft silk blankets. His wife lies right beside him. For 3 glorious seconds, everything seems perfect. Things got ambitious. Olivia opened her eyes. Nothing happened. The court would question separate rooms on their wedding night, she explained. They shared the bed strictly for show, but she tucked an entire blanket between them and slept on the far edge. Olivia sat up, studying the loose ring on Austin's wrist, apologizing for summoning him only for her own needs. He heard zero calculation in her voice. That sincere apology really stuck with him. He shrugged. After all, worse kidnappings existed, and at least this one had breakfast. Olivia almost smiled before a military messenger pounded on the door. 3 days later, at the palace gate, Olivia wore heavy black armor instead of silk. Invaders had crossed Brighton's northern frontier alongside a powerful summoner. She was heading out to retake the territory herself, explaining the invasion in a flat tone before mounting. Austin highly respected that sheer efficiency. Olivia stopped beside a young officer in silver armor, introducing her as Major McKenna Abbott. At 19, she was highly respected and the daughter of the Grand General. She would protect Austin while Olivia was away. McKenna saluted, then glared at Austin like she had been tasked with protecting a completely useless decorative pillow. She scoffed that he looked easy to guard. Austin warned her he napped aggressively. McKenna's mouth tightened, muttering that her only order was keeping him alive. Olivia gave Austin one last measuring look before climbing onto her warhorse. Stay inside, she ordered. He played the useless husband, claiming staying indoors was the one duty he fully respected. Olivia's gaze softened for half a second, then the gates opened, and his wife rode north with her army. Minutes after Olivia left, the palace gate was still clogged with departing soldiers, so Austin walked off down a quieter forest road, eating chicken. Technically, he was still inside. That's when 5 masked men suddenly dropped from the trees. McKenna watched everything unfold from a high branch, wanting to see if this useless prince could handle one basic problem himself. Then the trap sprung. An illusion relic flared up, creating a false copy of Austin appeared on the road, while 2 men dragged the real him through it. Hidden forest path, Austin kept eating. McKenna followed the fake trail, waiting for them to separate before striking the man holding the copy. Her sword sliced straight through him, and the fake Austin dissolved into smoke. A cage of glowing blue light slammed down around McKenna. The guard had charged blindly into a trap. She looked thoroughly embarrassed about it all. Then, a heavily scarred man stepped out from the shadows of the trees. McKenna's face completely changed. The moment she recognized him, Vaughn, she gasped, "You were executed." McKenna knew Vaughn was a notorious kidnapper from her past. He had escaped his execution convoy using an illusion relic and quietly rebuilt his gang in secret. Vaughn smirked, saying her family should have checked the body, then moved them to a cave. Before the guards noticed, inside, Vaughn tapped his magic illusion. Relic confirming with a spy inside the court that Olivia had marched north. Then Vaughn placed a small black vial before Austin. This was oath poison. Drinking it meant promising total obedience, and breaking that word would mean instant death. Austin drank it while Vaughn was still explaining the details, making McKenna slam the cage bars, screaming for him to stop. Too late, it tasted like burnt pennies. Uninterested in flavor, Vaughn leaned in, telling him to return to the palace and poison Empress Olivia's water. Austin agreed instantly, making McKenna stare in disbelief, calling him a coward. Vaughn laughed, saying the husband understood survival. Austin finished his chicken and wiped his fingers, declaring he was leaving with McKenna. Vaughn's smile thinned, refusing. Vaughn claimed unfinished business with her family, so Austin declared he would stay too. He pointed at the vial, warning it would kill him. Austin called that inconvenient. Austin replied, silencing McKenna. Vaughn studied him, searching for any sign of fear. Vaughn had promised his men results, but Austin calmly kept wiping his fingers. A henchman stepped forward as their laughter died, grabbing Austin by his hair. He yanked Austin's head back, ordering him to beg properly. Austin looked at his wrist, warning him to let go, but the man pulled harder. Despite the warning, the thug tightened his grip on the calm hostage. Austin punched once, and get this, the henchman vanished along with the wall. The shockwave rolled through the cave, erasing 3 more killers before they could even raise their weapons. The oath poison burned in Austin's throat, trying to seal his heart. The burning heat went cold as Baxter whispered that the oath was rejected. With the oath rejected, Vaughn lifted his illusion relic, but the jewel cracked. Vaughn backed away in terror, asking what he was, just the harmless husband. Austin directed his crushing pressure toward the final attacker, rushing McKenna's cage. The blades froze, the attacker vanished before reaching her as Vaughn tried to flee, but Austin released a breath of pressure, erasing the scarred kidnapper and his entire cell. McKenna stared in utter shock through her broken cage. Her earlier contempt vanished, and she softly begged him not to kill her. Austin reminded her he only stayed behind to save her. She swallowed hard. Austin casually snapped the sacred chains binding her with just 2 fingers. McKenna stepped free, immediately backing 3 feet away. Austin praised her good instincts. The ruined cave floor held enough damage for Empress Olivia to ask questions. He needed to hide the evidence, so Austin quickly jumped out of the cave. McKenna waited alone for barely a minute before Austin returned carrying a whole mountain. She leaned back, unable to see the top, demanding to know his plan. Austin dropped the mountain directly over the entrance, sealing the entire battlefield. The ground violently shook across the forest as McKenna watched the new landscape settle. She pointed out he literally buried the evidence under a mountain. Talk about an overcorrection. He eventually rejoined the palace guards with McKenna. McKenna claimed she had single-handedly destroyed Vaughn's cell and rescued Austin. The soldiers cheered her, though too loudly mocked Austin as useless dead weight. McKenna reached for her sword, but Austin caught her wrist, reminding her of their secret. She glared at them, but Austin noted the insults helped protect the secret. Though she hated the logic, she ultimately obeyed. By dinner, the proud major was carrying Austin's food, keeping everyone away from his table. The same soldiers who mocked him began whispering that the kidnapping had broken her mind. Austin approved. Misdirection was useful. Later, McKenna lowered her voice, explaining Vaughn's cell served a massive network called Crimson Veil. They had been harming Brighton citizens under the protection of corrupt officials. Worse, a court traitor had given Crimson Veil Olivia's restricted movements. Someone inside Brighton was leaking secrets. Crimson Veil had threatened his wife, his meals, and his retirement, 3 unforgivable offenses, so he decided to wipe out their entire network before they forced him to work. Next morning at dawn, McKenna and Austin stood on a palace balcony overlooking the capital. Crimson Veil extorted illegal protection money right out in the open. Crimson Tower murdered anyone who dared resist. A secret boss ran both groups while corrupt officials took their dirty cut. That setup threatened Olivia's throne. More importantly, it ruined the strict no-work clause in his marriage. If the Crimson Network invaded the capital, he would face 3 bad choices: reveal his power, accept royal duties, or watch his wife lose control of Brighton. All of them sounded exhausting, so he chose a 4th option. He would destroy the Crimson Network. Before dinner time, McKenna folded her arms, suggesting they gather intelligence first, but he already had some. She raised an eyebrow, demanding to know what intelligence. They knew Olivia left because of a leak, and they kidnapped him during lunch. McKenna stared in disbelief. That was just his motivation, he corrected. He needed her to understand his incredibly simple priorities, threaten the Empire and he might ignore you, threaten his meals, and he stops ignoring you. McKenna gave him the location of Crimson Vale's suspected territory. No one knew where the actual fortress sat because an illusion barrier hid it above the clouds. He grabbed her around the waist and jumped. The city vanished beneath them. Honestly, McKenna's first scream showed military discipline. The second was highly personal. Baxter's voice warned inside his head. Master, your passenger might die at this speed. He slowed down before the rushing wind tore plates from McKenna's armor. She grabbed his collar, demanding a warning next time. He calmly replied that he already did. Saying hold on was the warning, he reminded her. She glared, which he ignored. What a tragic partnership. Minutes later, they hovered over empty sky beyond the capital. McKenna pointed at thin air, guessing the hidden bay lay somewhere ahead. He listened closely. Hundreds of heartbeats pulsed behind the empty void. Brighton's weaker laws had sharpened every single sense he already possessed. He still had one body, his usual abilities, and far too much reach. Just watch, he punched the sky, shattering the invisible barrier. A hairline black crack ripped open beside his fist, then sealed. Baxter gave him one plain warning. Brighton's loose laws let his raw force buckle local space. McKenna stared at the closing rift, noting the barrier definitely didn't do that. He simply agreed, adding they would never discuss it. A floating stone fortress appeared. Where the clouds had looked empty, towers rose from its center while armed killers crowded the stone walls. The fortress had successfully hidden from armies for years. Just one punch ended that advantage. McKenna drew her sword, seeking an infiltration route. He told her there wasn't one. McKenna whispered his name, questioning him. But he was using the front door, landing hard enough to split the gate. Inside the first Crimson Tower base, masked killers were casually discussing him. One called him Olivia's lapdog, while another suggested mailing his head back to the northern frontier. A third mentioned the exact day Olivia left, proving a major leak from the palace court. Walking into the hall, he asked who planned that package. The killers turned, their beefy enforcer stepping forward, built like a guy who replaced every single thought with shoulder exercises, asking if he came alone. The enforcer mocks him. Austin glances back. She raises her sword. See, Austin tells the enforcer she has initiative. Decorative but with initiative, the enforcer orders his men to take Austin's head. Austin releases his pressure. Half the room drops before drawing weapons. Stone cracks. One assassin tries to crawl. He reaches for the alarm bell. They ruined his peaceful life. He had a schedule today. The enforcer laughs through clenched teeth. He accuses him of using an artifact, doubling down on his mistake. Austin punches once. The hall vanishes, the outer towers folding. Everything collapses. Survivors stare in disbelief. They curse whoever reported that this prince was harmless, beautiful. At least they finally blame the bad report. He grabs a flare. McKenna swiftly crosses the courtyard, slicing his hand. No reports today. Her loyalty is suddenly proactive. Slightly terrifying but very useful. Baxter scans the wreckage. Baxter announces the massive recovery. Rings, medicines, and spirit stones fly. Austin follows the sound of dragging boxes. One single punch shatters the wall. Gold fills the room. McKenna stares, arguing that all this treasure belongs to Brighton. It belongs to his ruined nap, Austin replies. Fine, they can borrow some. Baxter purifies a survival talisman. Austin hands it over. She examines it skeptically. She asks why she needs travel insurance, her eyes narrowing. Austin just smiles. The flight is wild, but the talisman keeps her safe. Wind batters her shield as the fortress appears. She stops screaming by the lake. Now she threatens his meals. Progress, they land in the courtyard. The guards barely realize the barrier failed. The chief arrives. The network chief arrives with his elite fighters, boasting robes and defensive shields. He smiles, having rehearsed Austin's funeral. He orders his elites to seize the treasure. His absolute certainty convinces the killers. They believe the first base was just a technical mistake. He claims the prince has no cultivation. Break the artifact to win. McKenna asks if they should correct him. Honestly, why ruin the fun? Let him keep talking. His strongest enforcer steps forward. They call him Skullsplitter, no subtlety found here. The brute sizes him up, claiming he only won with treasure. Sure, Austin agrees. Skullsplitter smiles wider. Without it, he's just a kept man, Austin lazily agrees. The brute cracks his knuckles, getting more confident. He promises to shatter his skull. Austin points a finger to his forehead. McKenna sighs. He is cooked. Skull splitter charges. His fist stops against a single finger, shattering the floor. Austin stands completely still. The brute strikes again with zero effect. His enemy's fist shattered. Those bones gave way before Austin even moved a finger, blood spotted. His sleeves ending his little pose. The watching killers instantly stopped cheering. Skullsplitter roared and swung again, proving that humiliation had only unlocked peak stupidity. Austin released a wave of pressure. He flew across the courtyard, crashing into the fortress wall hard enough to stick there. The network chief looked at his intelligence officer. The officer immediately looked toward the nearest exit. Austin sealed every single doorway. Leaving already, he asked. They charged people for protection, so now they had to protect themselves. The elites attacked. Together, Austin walked right through them. Blades shattered. Poison needles turned to dust. Fighters vanished in quick bursts of light before they could finish their technique names. A woman in red silk stepped forward from the back instead of attacking. McKenna warned him, a Crimson Tower's seductress. She survives by turning desire into absolute control. The woman was gorgeous and fully aware of it. That deadly combination had ruined smarter men than Austin. She lowered her weapon. She begged Prince Austin to spare her, offering lifetime service. He asked in what capacity. McKenna coughed behind him while the seductress smiled. Any capacity he desired. Well, the offer definitely had great presentation. But his wife controlled the palace, the money, and even breakfast. If Olivia divorced him, he would actually have to work. The seductress blinked. Austin explained his loyalty had many reasons, some being tax-related. She lunged when her charm failed. Austin tapped her forehead, sending her through stone pillar. He called to McKenna, wanting Olivia to know he rejected temptation. McKenna lowered her sword, promising to report his follow-up question first. Such brutal betrayal from his own witness, absolutely ruthless. Meanwhile, the remaining killers ran for hidden passages. Austin closed his hand, collapsing every exit. The network chief vanished during the panic, his defensive artifacts masked. His energy and an explosive formation began glowing beneath the fortress. McKenna saw the symbols, warning that he would destroy the base. Austin replied. The chief would lose it too. The formation ignited, engulfing the hall. Stone doors slammed shut, and the surviving killers realized their chief had trapped them inside his escape plan. Several began hammering the walls while he slipped away through a private passage. He had trapped his own people. Just to cover his escape, McKenna raised the survival talisman Austin gave her. Its shield protected them while the floor split. That nap compensation was already useful. A heartbeat later, Austin stood in a private chamber behind the chief. He hid beneath a reinforced platform, wrapped in 3 layers of concealment. None of them silenced the blood rushing through his veins. Austin grabbed his collar, dragging him back to the courtyard. The chief stared at him, asking how he found him. Austin replied he heard his blood, his mouth shut. The chief stopped bargaining for half a second, then offered names, money, and the identities of everyone who helped the Crimson Network. He demanded mercy before revealing anything while, behind him, his own trapped fighters screamed for help. He never looked back, abandoning his own fighters while still calling himself a chief. Austin looked at the burning fortress. Around them, he should have led with names. Austin ended him before he could. No more bargaining. The insider remained hidden since he already crushed the only witness. He chose instant certainty over a villain's final trick. It was a pretty peaceful choice. Peaceful, his absolute favorite combination. The fortress started dropping toward the lake. He grabbed McKenna, the saved storage, and a whole box of roast meat from the kitchen. Priorities always survive battle. Then he smashed the base downward. The entire fortress crashed beneath the lake. Water quickly rose over the towers, swallowing the burning halls, leaving behind one giant, rising circle of steam. Evidence clearing had upgraded from moving mountains to waterfront redevelopment. Heading home that evening, McKenna started practicing their cover story. You were kidnapped, she began, and he followed the Crimson Tower, defeating both bases. Too ambitious, he replied. McKenna pointed back, saying he carried a mountain. Yesterday, everyone already knows you can fight, he reminded her, so use that. At the palace gates, the royal guards asked why McKenna's armor was so scorched. She claimed bandits had attacked them. One guard openly laughed, mocking how the prince hid behind a 19-year-old again. McKenna quickly stepped in. The prince survived. which is more than those bandits managed. The guard immediately stopped smiling, her public allegiance had shifted. Meanwhile, his reputation remained beautifully useless. Over the following days, that clear mismatch kept causing major trouble. Commander Bridget Carnes visited the palace after hearing a massive floating fortress had fallen. Bridget was a widowed city commander. McKenna had already told him that the Crimson Network killed her husband, and Bridget now carried his soul crystal as a memorial inside her armor. She fully expected the surviving chief to retaliate. Meanwhile, he was lounging beneath a quiet pavilion while Baxter played anime directly inside his mind. McKenna arrived, polished armor carrying a tray of food, announcing she would remain right beside him. She had already fiercely argued with her father that morning after he called the prince totally useless. Apparently, that intense argument had started before breakfast even ended. The palace guards stared at her as if she had joined a crazy cult. One whispered that the kidnapping had made her fall for the useless prince. McKenna overheard, admitting she hit her head. She replied, and it improved her judgment. Then, a messenger reported that the Crimson Tower's floating island had collapsed. Bridget tightly gripped her husband's soul crystal, warning that if the chief survived, he would target everyone involved. McKenna and the prince looked at each other and laughed, instantly sharpening Bridget's gaze. "What is funny?" she demanded. McKenna's fake gasp arrived half a second late. The base fell. How unexpected. Covering his face, he said never to lie again. McKenna threw up her hands, claiming he ordered her to lie. He expected actual talent. Bridget looked between them, highly suspicious now. He pointed directly toward the gate. "Commander, return to your post," he commanded, saying they would hear if anything moves. She obeyed, because he carried Olivia's title, though her cold stare remained locked on McKenna. Later that afternoon, on a stone bridge behind the palace, McKenna knelt and begged him to make her his disciple. He pulled her upright by the shoulder, explaining he could not teach her what happened to his body. McKenna looked at his hand, saying he could destroy fortresses with one finger. That description contains the teaching. "Problem," he replied. McKenna refused to budge, pleading with him to teach her anything. He had no answer yet. Earth had trained him through brutal pain, repetition, and constant survival. Brighton had simply removed his limits afterward. He told her to get stronger alone. First, he told her they would discuss useful pressure later, flatly refusing McKenna's request. She left smiling anyway. Half a month later, officials confirmed the entire Crimson Network was completely gone. That evening, inside Bridget's war room, investigators placed 3 broken insignias on the table. Skull Splitter was dead. The seductress was dead. The chief too. No surviving towers remained. Bridget held her husband's soul crystal in both hands, crying without making a single sound. She whispered that her husband could finally rest. Nobody joked. Nobody needed to. He stood at the back, letting the unknown avenger receive all of her gratitude. When Bridget finally looked at him, he simply raised his hands. He spent that week eating. McKenna looked away before her face betrayed their secret. Bridget's husband finally had justice. Before sunset, the massive victory drew attention from a much stronger power. That same evening, a farmer outside the capital watched a portal split the air above his field. In his later report, he described 2 unfamiliar men wearing clothes from a higher world. One of them noted that no local fighter should have been strong enough to completely erase the Crimson Network. The 2 men began investigating this unknown powerhouse, meaning his peaceful days were officially over. At the northern frontier, Olivia later told the prince she received the same report about the Crimson Network inside her war tent. Grand General Regina Abbott stood beside her. Regina was McKenna's mother, Olivia's veteran commander, and a walking fortress in human armor. A second letter described McKenna guarding the prince daily, bringing him food and threatening soldiers who dared to mock him. Olivia read that letter twice. Regina read it once and nearly tore the table in half. Her daughter was serving that useless prince. Regina growled. Olivia folded the letter with suspicious care, noting she was only following orders. Regina stabbed a finger at the page, arguing those orders did not include feeding him. Olivia admitted later that she felt pretty jealous before considering the actual military problem. Regina's reaction was much simpler. She wanted to drag McKenna home by her armor. Neither woman got the chance. War horns suddenly blared outside the tent. The northern invaders attacked in full force, and their old summoner stepped onto the battlefield smiling. While Olivia and Regina moved to meet him, another enemy was already marching directly toward a Brighton city at the northern frontier. That same Knight Olivia later explained to him why the invaders had attacked so hard. They're old. Summoner met her high above the battlefield and sealed part of her power. Then he admitted his actual goal. Black Hollow Hall was a poison faction operating inside. Brighton and one of its elders was attacking a city near the capital. The summoner had been paid to keep Olivia trapped in the north. Olivia could not leave. Her army was completely surrounded, and walking away would mean certain death for thousands of soldiers. The old summoner simply smiled and tightened the seal on her. He had one job: keep the prince's wife north for 3 days. Unfortunately for his associates, the prince was already hunting for wine near the capital. Back near the capital that evening, he heard Bridget had gone to a nearby city. The city sold the best wine in the region. Commander Bridget Carnes visited that city often because her late husband had defended it against the Crimson Network. She had left earlier to check on the garrison and bring supplies. He wanted the wine, and Bridget had gone ahead, giving him the perfect excuse to leave the palace, so McKenna and the prince slipped away before the guards could even object. Finished objecting, McKenna kept one hand on her survival talisman, asking if they were flying. No, they were walking, the prince promised. She relaxed until they reached the wall. He added, her face tightened again. Talk about character development. By sunset, they reached the city gate to find smoke pouring over the barrier. The city defense barrier still held, but Hall killers had breached the outer district, dragging wounded soldiers toward a blood formation, while citizens hid behind locked doors. The killers forced surviving guards to kneel around the blood formation. Every fresh wound fed another red line beneath the street. Brighton defenders were actively powering the sacrifice, meant to destroy their own city. At the center of the street, an executioner raised a blade over Bridget's neck. She was on one knee, poisoned, bleeding through her armor, and still insulting the executioner's stance. A good commander, yet terrible customer. She had nearly died before buying his wine. The blade dropped. He crossed the street and launched the executioner straight through a wall. Bridget looked up through blurred eyes. McKenna landed beside him and drew her sword, telling her he saved her. Bridget stared at the supposedly useless prince. Under palace shade, he was also holding the miraculous medicine that saved her. Baxter helped by placing a healing pill in his hand. He pushed the pill between Bridget's lips. Instantly, her poison vanished. Torn muscles closed. Vibrant color returned to her face before the executioner even slid off the broken wall. She touched her healed side, asking what he gave her. Just medicine, he answered. Bridget flexed her healed hand, saying it was no medicine, then return it. He offered. She stopped asking questions. More importantly, she stood. The brave commander, who had been waiting for execution, picked up a fallen sword and moved between the civilians and the blood formation. That single pill put her back between the civilians and the enemy. A young Hall disciple stepped from the blood formation, sent to finish Bridget, while wearing the incredibly smug look of someone who had only fought injured opponents all week. Behind him, a poison elder watched from a raised platform. Baxter quickly scanned them. Local fighters measured their strength in numbered realms. McKenna stood around the third, while the elder stood near the eighth, with the disciple falling right between them. McKenna could easily fight the disciple. If the prince exposed himself, Bridget would witness everything, so he pointed at the disciple, telling his major to handle him. McKenna moved before the enemy finished laughing. Her initial strike forced him back 3 steps, and her second split his sleeve. He stopped, smiling when he realized Olivia's young guard was far better than the reports claimed. As he threw poison needles, McKenna spun her blade and knocked each one aside. The disciple spat that palace officers only hid behind imperial protection. Then he kicked a wounded guard straight toward her and attacked through the opening. McKenna caught the guard with one arm, blocked the blade with the other, shoving the man to safety. The watching Hall killers completely stopped laughing. They expected an execution, but she was beating their disciple right in front of them. Desperate, he charged with a killing technique. McKenna met him head-on. For one dangerous second, his heavy weapon pressed. The massive difference in raw power pushes against her, driving her down toward the ground. Suddenly, something sharpens around McKenna's sword. The very air begins to scream. The near-death pressure triggers a breakthrough years of training had prepared. One clean strike slices right through the disciple's technique, opening his shoulder armor. He crashes hard onto the stone street. McKenna looks down at her glowing blade. "Austin, you did that," Neil tells her. She smiles, but the poison elder ruins the moment. Purple symbols ignite beneath the district. Thick, deadly gas pours from the streets. Two giant venomous snakes slowly rise from the glowing formation. McKenna's new sword intent slices one snake apart, but the second wraps around her guard. It fills the air with toxic venom. Her knees buckle as the elder laughs from his platform. He calls them a pretty prince, a wounded commander, and a child-playing soldier. Claiming Brighton sent him gifts, but McKenna is 19 and has already buried his disciples' confidence. Calling her a child is just wishful thinking. The elder points directly at Neil. Calling him a useless prince, telling Neil to beg correctly so he can watch the women die first. Bridget tries to stand between them. Her body is healed, but her weapon is completely gone. Neil raises both hands. Let's be practical, he tells the elder. He knows Empress Olivia's defenses. He offers to trade her secrets. Bridget turns on him in total disbelief, accusing him of betraying the Empress, but McKenna quietly places a hand over Bridget's mouth. She witnessed this act back in Van's cave, and her face says this sequel came too soon. Neil nods toward the city gate, proposing they let the women leave before he talks. The poison elder leans forward. Speak first, he demands. Neil replies that he is only asking for one reasonable condition. The elder smiles. You have no conditions. That is exactly the answer Neil wanted. He lowers his hands. Suddenly, the street cracks beneath his feet. Massive pressure rolls right through the district. Splitting the mountains beyond the wall, the giant poison snakes instantly flatten. Every hall killer drops face first onto the stone. The elder's platform shatters beneath him. He crashes onto the street and stares up at Neil with his mouth wide open. Bridget looks at McKenna. McKenna finally tells her the truth. Neil completely destroyed the Crimson Network. Both of their bases. Bridget looks back at him with absolute shock. She stops treating him like a coward and turns her blade toward the elder. The poison elder tries to crawl backward, stammering that this is a misunderstanding. Neil steps forward and slaps him across the face, sending him spinning onto his knees. Will you release them? Neil demands. The elder gasps yes, but Neil decides it is too late. He slaps him again, asking who gave him permission to use his city. The elder stammers about Black Hollow Hall's authority. Wrong answer. Another slap sends him flying straight through the remains of his platform. He arrived promising sacrifice, but 3 minutes later, he is taking heavy hits. Directly to his face, McKenna whispers to Bridget that Neil is being gentle. Bridget stares at the split mountains, admitting that sentence deeply concerns her. The elder drags himself upright, screaming that poison always defeats brute strength. He points at the kneeling guards, promising Neil's arrogance will dissolve beside them. Bridget tightens her grip on the fallen sword, while McKenna forces herself upright. Despite the toxic venom, both women know the next attack could easily kill everyone. Except for Neil, of course. He can survive the poison, but the city cannot. Then Baxter warns him that the elder just burned 30 years of his own life. The sky paled. A toxic black-green swamp flooded the district, dissolving stone. Ruining weapons and melting every plant, the corrosive mist ate through the city. Barriers inner pavement. The rule was simple. Ordinary bodies died instantly on contact. The elder had spent 3 decades mastering this trap just to keep him inside. The swamp rose. Above his head for several agonizing seconds, McKenna and Bridget lost sight of him. The elder laughed triumphantly until he casually strolled right back out. His skin felt clean. He rubbed his cheek, asking Baxter if this was exfoliation. Baxter confirmed it. The elder choked on his own laughter, nearly injuring himself. He scooped some poison onto his face. Bridget slowly lowered her empty hand, completely dumbfounded by him. Using an ultimate death technique as skincare, talk about bizarre wellness benefits. Meanwhile, the enemy disciple groaned near the formation. He hauled him up by his collar and tossed him right into the swamp. The poor guy melted before he could escape. That answered his safety test. The swamp was indeed a highly effective poison. Just targeted at the wrong guy. He turned, asking the elder for another batch. The elder's face went completely blank. He swallowed his own poison and collapsed, terrified. The old man literally chose death over becoming his personal spa technician. McKenna stared. Stunned, she remarked that he killed himself. He defended himself. He only wanted skin care. She pointed at the wreckage. He only asked after slapping him through it. Well, tone is subjective, he countered. At least the main threat was finally over. But the field still held a corrosive swamp, bodies, and cracked mountains. Bridget carefully surveyed the aftermath, asking if he could somehow neutralize the poison. McKenna quickly chimed in, asking about the evidence too. Both women stared at him. This was exactly how people always ended up giving him chores. He stomped once. Then he exhaled, violently driving the poison and ruined debris away. The resulting shockwave completely flattened the entire combat zone, in fact 3. Massive mountains vanished right along with it, when the heavy dust finally settled. The wasteland had become one perfectly flat plain. McKenna slowly lowered her talisman. She muttered that he definitely removed the evidence. He calmly confirmed it. When she pointed at the horizon, he joked about removing the local geography. Suddenly, he remembered the city behind them. Its massive barrier had blocked the flash. It had shielded the citizens from witnessing his absurdly destructive strike, but it could not hide the horizon. Confused citizens climbed the walls to stare. At the empty space where 3 massive mountains had stood just hours ago, the terrified guards watched the flat plain from the safety of the gate. They quickly lowered their voices as Bridget approached, completely in awe of her. Her returning alive was the only miracle the clueless locals could understand. She received all the glory, while the useless prince stood behind her holding wine. One merchant dropped his basket while others prayed. A kid asked a question. Did the mountains go to war? Honestly, a pretty reasonable theory for a child. On their way out, Bridget whispered that he was likely a walking calamity. More dangerous than both dark networks combined, he shouted from 30 paces ahead. He yelled that he could hear them. Bridget stopped dead while McKenna winced. She warned Bridget that he could hear blood pumping inside a hidden fortress. Bridget complained she left that out, but McKenna claimed she was prioritizing. Bridget caught up, bowing and swearing his secrets were safe. McKenna quickly agreed. Every new ally protecting Austin today only increased the risk of a leak tomorrow. That night, McKenna took both Bridget and Austin to her family home for dinner. Her father met them in the courtyard before they could even reach the dining table. McKenna had refused to leave Austin's side ever since the brutal attack. She followed him through the courtyard while Bridget carried the wine they had finally recovered. Austin affectionately tapped her head when she suggested sleeping right outside his door. He told her to go see her parents, since some people do not get that chance. His own parents were never in his life. The guild had raised him like equipment. McKenna's expression softened right before her father chose absolute chaos. Harrison Abbott served as Brighton's construction minister and was Regina's husband. He was also the best cook Austin had smelled since arriving in this world. Seeing the prince's hand on his daughter's head, Harrison immediately stopped smiling. He demanded Austin remove his hand, so McKenna stepped in to defend him. Harrison pointed at her, complaining that she vanished with the prince and now defended him. Bridget set down the wine and spoke up, explaining that the prince had actually saved them both. Harrison demanded to know from what, causing the girls to share a tense pause. Austin had rescued them, and now they were keeping his secret. Harrison met only silence, quickly snapping that Austin was Olivia's husband. He ordered her to keep a proper distance, but McKenna just crossed her arms. Bridget chimed in, telling Harrison to stop insulting the prince and thank him for the city. Harrison looked between them, realizing both women had taken the prince's side before dinner. But then the incredible aroma from the kitchen reached Austin, and he followed it inside. At the table, Harrison served roasted meat, spiced vegetables, and fresh bread. After just one bite, Austin stopped discussing scandal and started negotiating the menu. Pointing his fork, he declared that Harrison would be cooking for him from now on. Harrison protested that he was a minister, but Austin replied that he could have hobbies. Harrison set down his knife, citing his massive responsibilities to the southern refugees. Camps lacked food and housing, but Austin jokingly countered that his own responsibility was eating this again. McKenna covered a growing smile, while Bridget quickly drank her wine to hide hers. Austin placed a storage ring on the table before Harrison could refuse him again. Baxter had stripped every seal from the Crimson Network's loot, converting it all. Now the ring held 1 million clean, unmarked spirit stones for Harrison to use. Austin told him to fund the refugees, keep the source quiet, and prepare tomorrow's menu. Harrison checked the staggering amount inside, quickly closing the ring in his fist. He promised that nobody outside the room would ever hear a single word of this. His tone changed immediately as he asked what Austin wanted to eat tomorrow. McKenna stared as Harrison insisted this money would fund construction by morning. He declared that 1 million stones completely outranked any of her complaints. Austin highly respected just how quickly the construction minister changed his mind. Harrison suggested buying food and shelter, but Austin pointed out the hidden flaws. It would leave refugee gangs in control, so Austin simply suggested hiring them. Confused Harrison questioned hiring the gangs, so Austin explained his strategy. It would build roads, bridges, and farms, earning honest pay in food and spirit stones. Since honest work feeds them, the city gets rebuilt while the gang bosses lose recruits. Harrison suddenly stopped eating and stood up so fast his chair fell backward. Harrison stared intently at the ring, hoping this crazy plan would work. It had to work since the husband already paid for dinner. Clerks scrambled, work crews were moving before they even finished their dessert. Just like that, the merchant became his trusted ally and his chef. But explaining 3 missing mountains was going to be pretty tough. 3 days later, Olivia came home to a city, treating him like a hero. Meanwhile, far to the north, Olivia broke through to the 9th realm. The enemy summoner smiled, right until the sky turned brilliant gold. He spent 3 whole days sealing her power while his allies attacked Brighton. Simple plan, keep Olivia trapped while Black Hollow Hall destroyed Brighton. But then Olivia's true power tore straight through his seal. Her very first strike shattered his barrier, leaving the old man panicking. Olivia drove straight through his magic and sliced his staff in half. His defenses lasted barely a second. Her next strike crushed him. The invaders watched their sacred summoner fall and immediately broke their ranks. They scattered in panic even before Regina's heavy cavalry could reach them. Olivia landed, ordered the wounded sent home, and turned back toward Brighton. His wife literally ended an entire war before lunch. Absolutely stunning. Grand General Regina Abbott, McKenna's mother, wanted to chase the retreat. But Olivia flatly refused. The city comes first, she ordered. They needed to return immediately, as she had reached the 9th realm. Olivia admitted her power had been growing strangely ever since his summoning. There was no explanation, and the sudden speed worried her. But their journey back home presented a much bigger, completely bizarre problem. High above the city Black Hollow Hall attacked, Olivia and Regina paused. Looking down, they saw a flat horizon where 3 mountains used to be. Olivia scanned the empty land, using her powerful 9th realm senses. The city still stood with a damaged barrier, but the mountains were gone. Regina gripped her weapon tightly, asking if she could measure whoever did this. Olivia simply answered with a quiet no, and that single word silenced the general. Even Brighton's strongest woman, newly ascended, could not measure this mysterious entity. Little did she know, her husband did this while trying to hide a fight. He had accidentally edited the map and now sat near the gate. He was supervising Harrison's hardworking refugee crews from a comfortable chair. To him, supervising simply meant eating snacks while other people worked. During the weeks since the Crimson Network fell, trade was finally moving again. In 3 days, Harrison's crews had paved the road right beneath him. McKenna stood right beside him, feeding him delicious slices of roasted meat. This was highly necessary, since both of his hands were occupied with lunch. Commander Bridget Carnes held the special wine they rescued from the poisoned city. She claimed to be guarding it, though she did a pretty terrible job. Right then, the Northern Army entered the gate, with Olivia riding up front. He instantly lost his train of thought, seeing his wife clad in battle armor. She looked like an actual final boss, but then she spotted McKenna feeding him. Olivia saw McKenna feeding him, spotted the wine, and froze. Olivia calls out to Austin, explaining she left him with only 1 guard while upgrading security. Bridget raises her glass, declaring herself a commander, drawing Olivia's immediate look. She looks from the bottle to Austin. That explanation helped him, not her. McKenna tries to lower the plate as Regina spots her daughter, nearly sliding off her horse. Regina barks McKenna's full name. Why are you feeding him? McKenna quickly retreats behind Austin's chair, the proud major suddenly using him as cover. The woman who once called him dead weight now shields herself from her mother behind him. McKenna claims she is guarding the prince as Regina points aggressively at the food. McKenna holds up the plate, explaining that the prince forgets to eat when interrupted. Austin protests, but McKenna just stuffs another slice into his mouth, cueing laughs. Regina reaches to grab her daughter, but a road foreman steps in first to block her. He bows to Olivia and points to Austin, praising him for giving their families work. A wine merchant then holds up a bottle from his cart, bearing Olivia's name. He proudly announces that this entire batch sold out completely before sunrise. Those taxes funded the East Bridge repairs, prompting a nearby refugee crew to halt their work. They bow from the road as one man thanks the prince for paying actual wages. He chose wages over feeding gangs, and an old shopkeeper invites him to a banquet. Several merchants even start arguing over who gets to host him at their table. He had secured the roads, built peace, and somehow got punished for his competence. Regina's attempt to drag her daughter away backfires, turning into a public defense of Austin. A beautifully played move. The crowd has already chosen their side. Olivia dismounts and studies the busy road, the wagons, and the workers. She stares at the bottle carrying her name, asking what exactly happened while she was gone. Austin calls it minor improvements, but McKenna cannot help but boast for him. She starts listing his achievements before he can stop her, pointing toward the road. Austin funded the cruise, telling Harrison to hire the gang workers directly. The gang bosses are losing recruits, and Bridget raises the bottle with pride. The reopened bridge brought trade back, funded entirely by his growing wine profits. He warns her, stop listing his qualifications. She smiles. Olivia's expression softens toward the workers, but then her eyes narrow at McKenna's plate. She folds her arms, noting he rebuilt roads, helped refugees, and built a wine empire. All while two women served him lunch. Austin chuckles, saying it sounds highly organized. Olivia looks around, admitting it actually looks organized, which he calls deeply unfair. He confesses to using her name without asking, knowing her reputation was key. People trusted the Empress far more than a supposedly useless royal husband. Olivia steps close, raising her voice so the surrounding crowd can hear her words. She declares he is her husband. The entire gate falls dead silent. She turns to the crowd, announcing that no one in Brighton will call him useless. Talk about a power move. Anyone who insults her husband answers to her. Mocking guards quickly shut their mouths, and Regina slowly lowers her hand. She releases McKenna's shoulder, the walking fortress refusing to fight the Empress over lunch. Even she backs down, and McKenna proudly lifts her chin in triumph. Bridget hands him the wine as if the court itself just approved the vintage. The guard who used to laugh now lowers his head when Austin glances over. It is clear public opinion has shifted when the loudest critic suddenly studies his boots. Austin leaned toward Olivia, silently reminding himself why he married way above his station. Olivia's mouth curved, she reminded him that she summoned him, telling him not to steal credit. There she was, his war goddess, home and acting wonderfully petty, that evening at the Abbott family estate. Harrison turned the reunion dinner into Austin's personal awards ceremony. Regina entered expecting a grand feast for the returning army commander. Harrison adjusted a tray and told his wife that the military banquet was at the palace, and this table was prepared only for Prince Austin. Regina stared at him. The walking fortress had been completely demoted inside her own dining room. McKenna studied her plate with heroic concentration, while Bridget drank quickly before anyone could involve her. Harrison set the premium wine and a heavy tax pouch beside Olivia. The roads reopened, the wine sold out, and direct pay stripped workers from the gangs. Austin pointed at the roast, suggesting that the food deserved their attention. Harrison ignored him and broke fresh bread, boasting that the crews now milled the grain they ate. Every compliment sounded like someone submitting a massive employment application in Austin's name. Austin cut in, telling Harrison to stop trying to ruin dinner since he funded it. Olivia watched him shrink from praise harder than he had ever faced deadly poison. Olivia tilted her head, teasing that he was afraid of work, which Austin terrifiedly admitted. She gestured toward the table, saying he destroyed that entire image just to avoid an office. He had seen offices, and let's be real, meetings are the absolute worst. Olivia sat down her cup. She announced that their original agreement would stand. Austin would receive food, wealth, rank, and absolute peace, and she would not force him into office or military duty. Austin stopped pretending to eat. Olivia continued, adding that he helped Brighton only because he chose to, and she would not punish that choice by taking his freedom. Austin almost proposed again, but then he remembered they were already married and saved himself the extra paperwork, telling her that this marriage had excellent benefits. Olivia smiled, warning him to behave if he wanted to keep them. After Regina left for the army, Harrison brought up the other matter waiting at court. The ministers wanted answers about the mysterious powerhouse who had completely erased the Crimson Network and flattened the attack from Black Hollow Hall. McKenna suddenly became fascinated by her cup, while Bridget discovered an urgent interest in the window. Olivia watched them avoid her eyes, sensing they knew something. McKenna answered too quickly, claiming they only knew the city survived. That bought them nothing except Olivia's deep suspicion. Olivia sent McKenna and Bridget ahead to check the palace route. Once the room held only Olivia, Harrison, and Austin, he moved to the real issue he could discuss openly. A royal husband had to sit beside the Empress during formal court sessions, but the Northern War had delayed Austin's first appearance. That excuse had expired. Harrison lowered his voice, warning that Prime Minister Clifton Maddox would surely use tomorrow's court session to attack him. Olivia had told Austin about the heavy marriage pressure, but she had never given him the full picture. Clifton had helped Olivia seize the throne during a dangerous succession crisis. His price came later, wanting Olivia to marry his son, Darren Maddox, in place. Their family right beside Brighton's future heirs. Darren wanted Austin's seat, while Clifton wanted total control of whoever inherited the throne. Olivia had summoned a stranger because a husband with no family faction could easily block both men. Olivia's summoning had blocked the very succession plan Clifton spent years arranging. Now, Olivia faced Austin. Across the table, she offered to delay the ceremony. "You do not have to attend," she said. Harrison shook his head. "Clifton will call avoidance proof." Olivia kept staring. She promised to protect him either way. "I'll go," he told her, her fingers tightened around her cup. "I believe you," he told her. "You stood beside me at the gate. I can sit beside you in court," he said. Olivia looked away first, the tips of her ears flushed red. After dinner, McKenna and Bridget walked behind him. McKenna whispered, "Clifton is already cooked." Bridget answered that he does not know. "That is the best part," McKenna decided. A clumsy tale followed from 3 rooftops back. The spy's breathing hitched whenever he glanced toward any reflection. The tale was close enough to hear, so he decided to feed him one useful fact. He rolled the silver contract ring along his wrist. McKenna noticed. "That ring is bound to your life force," she warned. He pulled it off. Both women stopped. Bridget pointed. "The summoning contract cannot be removed." "It never rooted," he told her, sliding it onto his other wrist and moving forward. The footsteps behind them stopped for one heartbeat. Whoever followed them had just learned Olivia's leash was decorative, a terrifying realization. McKenna grabbed her sword. "We should raid Clifton's estate tonight," she growled. "No," he replied. Her jaw tightened. "He wants to humiliate you in court. That is no reason to kill him," he told her. McKenna frowned. "It would prevent the humiliation," she insisted. She tapped her forehead. "That is still murder," he said. Bridget looked at McKenna. "You used to threaten people for touching your armor." McKenna rubbed her forehead. "He carried a mountain, fair defense," she mumbled. An hour later they trained. He put McKenna and Bridget under controlled pressure. His raw body came from Earth's missing restraints so nobody could copy it. He taught them breathing, balance, and movement under crushing pressure. "Hold your stances," he ordered. "Hold them for 1 hour." McKenna's knees bent. Bridget's boots cracked the stone, but they stood upright. Halfway through, McKenna forced one agonizing step forward. Bridget followed, refusing to let pride let the younger officer win alone. When pressure eased, neither of their hands shook. When the hour ended, both women remained standing. He sat nearby and practiced controlling a single breath. Without damaging the yard, precision made him sweat more than killing ever had. Olivia arrived as the hour ended with 2 attendants behind her. She dismissed them and pointed toward her bedroom. "You are sleeping beside me tonight," Olivia ordered. "Court will see a united marriage tomorrow." He followed. Because bravery has its limits. Inside her room, Olivia had traded armor for a pale sleeping robe. He forgot what to do with his hands. Olivia patted the bed. "You have been training," she said. "I was supervising," he replied. Olivia touched his collar. "You are sweating." "Leadership is demanding," he said. Olivia laughed, then leaned in to touch the loose ring on his other wrist. Her smile faded. "Why are you really willing to face Clifton? He survived blades, poison, explosions, and mountains. That heavy question took longer. He spent his life becoming strong enough that nobody could stand beside him," he said. "On Earth, people either used or feared him." Olivia listened without interrupting. "When I arrived here, I thought the deal was food and peace. Then you left and I wanted you to come back. McKenna became someone I protected. Bridget trusted me. Harrison was starting to feel like family." Austin looked at Olivia. Their marriage began as a political trick, but she was the first family he ever chose. Olivia reached across the blanket and took his hand, introducing herself as Olivia Harcourt, Empress of Brighton. His wife, Austin Carile, he replied, her husband. Olivia kept holding his hand until the room went dark. The next morning, Clifton tried to turn their marriage into a death sentence. The next morning, inside Brighton's royal court, Olivia sat on her throne, and Austin found a phoenix chair waiting. Beside her, the chair had curved wings, embroidered flowers, and enough delicate silk to make him look like her decorative cousin. Austin stopped in front of it. Olivia noticed before the ministers finished entering and ordered that chair replaced. Declaring her husband sits as a prince, attendants carried in a broad black seat. With arms built for an adult man, Olivia gave him a private wink as he sat. Darren Maddox stared at the new chair from below the throne. Darren was Clifton's son, Olivia's rejected political match, and the spare heir who still believed that seat belonged to him. His jaw tightened. Good, court had not even started, and Darren was already mad at a chair. Prime Minister Clifton Maddox entered last. The polished snake had helped Olivia win the throne, then tried to collect her as payment for his son. He bowed to Olivia with perfect form and looked at Austin like an accounting error wearing royal clothes. Clifton stepped into the center of court, declaring that Brighton cannot continue carrying this man. Olivia's fingers settled on the throne arm. Clifton pointed toward Austin's chair. Austin Carile has no family standing, no cultivation record, and no service history. He spends imperial money on pleasure, sells wine using her name, surrounds himself with female officers, and turns ministers into personal servants. Harrison's face hardened at the servant line. One young officer tightened her grip on a sword. Clifton saw both reactions and kept digging. He has turned a young major into a server, Clifton continued, and a widowed commander carries his wine. Minister Harrison diverts his time from Brighton to cook at the prince's table. Every person near him forgets their proper duty. McKenna had fed Austin at the gate. Harrison had publicly claimed him as his favorite dinner guest. Clifton had collected the visible facts and turned them into a charge against the throne. He is annoyingly competent. Then he aimed at Olivia, declaring that her feelings have blinded the throne. The prince weakens Brighton's dignity. He requested his exile. Clifton had accused Austin in front of the whole court. If he failed, the whole court would watch. Olivia rose. Her ninth realm pressure struck the court floor. Pillars shook. Several ministers dropped to one knee. Insult my husband again, Olivia warned, and she will remove his head before she removes his title. Clifton remained standing. His robe snapped under her pressure, but his voice stayed level. Then exile is insufficient, Clifton answered, for corrupting the throne and threatening Brighton's succession. Prince Austin should be executed. The polished snake received one warning and instantly upgraded to death. Talk about commitment. Olivia's power climbed again. Austin touched her wrist from his chair, telling her to let him finish. Clifton stared at his hand on her and disliked the marriage even more. Harrison stepped forward before Olivia. Before anyone answered, the prince funded refugee relief, reopened roads, and restored trade, and gave workers a way out of the gangs. He pointed toward the officers, declaring that his daughter had also completed her sword intent while serving him. A nearby blade slid from its sheath as the air sharpened. 3 veteran officers shifted back. McKenna's breakthrough was real, but the official records still carried Harrison's name. Clifton turned to Harrison, demanding he show the court one written order carrying Austin's name. Harrison went quiet. Austin had merely given advice over dinner. Harrison had issued and signed all the orders. Clifton knew where the proof ended, so Harrison did the work. Clifton concluded, while the prince took the praise. Austin leaned back. Can you prove he did not give the plan? Clifton's eyes narrowed. You are the accused, Clifton snapped. You made the accusation, Austin reminded him. Bring evidence, the court murmured. Clifton's smug smile narrowed by 1 degree. He had wanted a defense. Austin had made him prove the attack. Clifton had expected him to defend every road like a clerk. Austin handed the burden back, watching his opponent's proof argument fail. Changing tactics immediately, Clifton opened a large black case carried by 2 attendants. Inside rested an ancient legacy book wrapped in chains. Every minister recognized it. Clifton faced Olivia, declaring this relic belonged to Brighton's first royal line. Its script only chooses worthy readers. Anyone below the 10th realm who opens it and fails dies before the final page. Every minister heard the rule. Olivia's hand tightened around Austin's. Harrison shook his head once. Clifton looked at Austin, demanding he read it to receive the inheritance. He promised to withdraw every charge and pay 5 million spirit stones, and if he failed, Austin asked. Clifton replied, you die without staining the execution platform. Efficient, rude but efficient. Olivia urged Austin to refuse, and Harrison quickly agreed. No one in Brighton had survived that book for generations. Austin looked at the chained relic, then at Clifton. 5 million is too low for a death wager, he noted. Wager, Clifton's smile returned, inviting him to name his price and put terms. Writing, Austin agreed, and a court clerk carried the wager forward. The page stated one brutal exchange. If Austin opened the legacy book and read to the end, success. Earned the signed amount, failure would kill him before Clifton ever needed an executioner. Clifton had offered $5 million, but the written total on the page was 6. The polished snake kept his eyes on Olivia while signing. This performance cost him an extra $1 million. Austin read the total twice and signed beneath him. After all, who would interrupt a wealthy man while he is making a victory more expensive? Darren finally lost control, telling his father not to bargain with this parasite. He snapped that Austin should be dragged away from his place beside the throne. Austin stood up, crossed the chamber, and slapped him hard. The hit turned Darren sideways and dropped him beside the chair he thought he deserved. The entire court went dead silent. Austin looked at Clifton, telling him to parent his constantly interrupting son. Darren pushed himself up, his face twisted with absolute rage. Clifton raised one hand without looking at his son, admitting Darren had behaved without discipline. He declared that he accepted responsibility, surrendering 1 year of his household salary to the treasury. He bowed deeply to Olivia. Clifton had swallowed the public slap, paying a smaller price to protect his larger wager. That deadly restraint made him far more dangerous than Darren. Austin returned to the legacy book. The chains fell away when he touched the Olivia stood beside the throne. Once opened, the book begins attacking the reader's body and mind. Closing it before the final page also kills the reader. Quite a dramatic book, he remarked. Then he opened it. Black symbols rose from the first page and struck his forehead. The court leaned forward as he felt pressure behind his eyes, across his shoulders, and down his spine. He turned the page. More symbols hit. He closed the book before the final page. Several ministers recoiled. Darren started smiling through the handprint on his face as Clifton spoke, softly stating he has chosen death. He sat back in the new chair. Clifton had promised immediate death. Every eye in court moved to his throat, waiting for his pulse to stop. Olivia stepped down from the throne. Darren rose halfway from the floor with a satisfied grin, but nothing happened. He rubbed the back of his neck. The pressure had reached a useful spot. Darren's smile began losing confidence. Before he even finished standing, he opened the book again and read slowly. Clifton watched his breathing. Olivia watched his hands. Harrison looked prepared to throw himself between him and the paper, which was loyal but medically useless. He glanced up silently, asking everyone to stop staring because they were making reading weird. Nobody moved. The death test is clearly going badly when the victim requests better library manners. The second page drove pressure through his ribs. The third struck behind his eyes. Each attack would have broken a normal reader before the ink finished moving. Clifton counted the pages under his breath. Darren watched his face for pain and found only boredom. Olivia left the throne to stand beside his chair. She stayed close enough to catch him, though the book's rules gave her nothing to catch. He turned another page. A minister near Clifton whispered that no reader had ever reached that point alive. Clifton silenced him with one look, then addressed him, offering that he could still surrender the claim and lose $6 million. He asked, telling them to be serious. Meanwhile, the symbols kept attacking. The writing still looked like scratches carved by an angry bird. Baxter, he called internally, asking for a translation. His overqualified system assistant answered, saying it required 3,000 system points. He asked how many points he had, and Baxter replied they were insufficient. When he reminded Baxter that he controlled missions, it paused. Then the system announced a new mission: to remain seated for 1 second. He remained seated. Mission complete. Reward 9,999 points. His assistant had invented the easiest mission in history. Nepotism finally worked for him, ordering the start of the translation. The symbols changed. Baxter translated the first line. First, the book was testing whether the reader could carry its legacy without breaking. Every page he had survived had already answered that question. What had looked meaningless became a sequence of instructions written directly into his mind. The legacy book stopped trying to reject him and began pouring its inheritance forward. Golden characters rose from every page. They circled the court once, then entered his forehead in a bright stream. The book lifted from his hands and folded itself closed. Olivia's fear vanished and she smiled. Harrison lowered his fists. The older ministers who had expected a corpse stepped away from Clifton instead. One elder who had nodded through the execution request now bowed toward him. A general shifted his chair away from Darren and closer to Harrison, nobody near Clifton, moved back toward him as Darren looked from the. He linked the glowing book to his father's wager, immediately seeing the financial issue. Before Clifton confessed his power trouble, the old man stared at the final. Light entering his mind, wondering if the transfer was incomplete, the legacy book floated. Behind him and completely ignored the elder, he picked up the wager, noting Clifton's $5 million offer. But he signed for 6. Clifton stared at the number and the prince gave him a thumbs up for the generous mistake. Harrison coughed into his fist and failed to hide his laughter, while 2 generals stopped pretending to inspect the floor. Then Olivia laughed outright from her throne. An officer standing near Harrison covered her mouth. But it was too late. Even the clerk who drafted the wager bent over his table. The laughter filled the room, leaving Clifton standing completely frozen right in the middle. Darren looked for support, finding only ministers who stared at the handprint. On his face, Clifton kept his face blank, but his hand failed him, squeezing the edge of his sleeve before letting go. He placed a storage ring, holding 6 million spirit stones on the table, saying Brighton honors written terms. The prince chuckled, replying that he always loved public service. Meanwhile, Darren looked ready to fight, but Clifton's stare shut him down before the prince intervened. The messy accusation was over, and the court elders changed their tune with unbelievable speed. One praised his sharp mind, while another called the inheritance a sign of royal favor. A general even suggested that the prince head a new imperial office. Treasury minister offered him an advisory seat before the general could even finish. These job offers felt like a massive ambush. Raising a hand, he requested just wine and dinner, clarifying that this was the only reward he wanted. Olivia hid another smile. This public genius was getting dangerously close to actual employment. He had to set boundaries early, outside the court that afternoon. Olivia walked beside him, while Harrison held the 6 million ring already planning how to spend it. Olivia glanced at the legacy book tucked under his arm. She asked how it felt, and he casually replied it just felt heavy. Olivia frowned. That relic kills anyone below the 10th realm. Touching his arm, she realized he closed it early. He explained the first page was straining his neck, causing Olivia to stop completely. He treated a legendary death relic like a massage. Even the poison elder had better skincare. She lightly smacked his arm, muttering that he was impossible yet somehow still married. Olivia glared for 2 steps, but her smile lasted far longer. By sunset, the inheritance story had spread to every tavern near the palace. By dinner, merchants were offering cold cash for copies of a completely unreadable script. Strangers wondered if some ancient power had chosen Brighton's mysterious foreign prince. One rumor claimed a massive force would soon reclaim what the book had given him. This news had spread far too fast to be organic. Every gossip session made the book sound wealthier, older, and way more dangerous. That meant treasure hunters, power-hungry factions, and anyone tracking down the mysterious powerhouse now had a target on him. Clifton had lost the court, so the prince suspected the slimy snake fed the rumors himself. With court a failure, he turned his inheritance into a global target. This treasure made him wealthy, famous, and employable. 3 massive disasters before sunrise. Olivia sent for him as his victory earned him a heavy royal work assignment. Morning after Clifton's deep humiliation, he found Olivia buried under documents in her private workroom. Rumors of his inheritance had made every minister suddenly interested in his schedule. Olivia planned to give him one official duty before they invented 10. She joined 2 plain jade keys on the desk. Golden lines crossed both halves, and every lock in the room clicked. 1 half belonged to her father, Olivia explained. The other came from Clifton's family under an old court arrangement. Together, they opened the sealed vault. He looked at the jade, then at the paperwork around her. He frowned at the keys. This felt dangerously close to actual employment, he muttered. Olivia leaned back. The court saw him receive a royal inheritance, she noted. They would demand she give him an office. Cruel people, he replied. Inspect the vault, keep it secure, and take anything inside that makes him happy, she said. Her tone stayed light, but the keys had belonged to her father. Olivia was handing him access to the part of her family nobody else controlled. He picked up the jade. Treasure inspection is a respected retirement activity, he mused. Olivia smiled. Without raising her head, do not sleep in there, she teased. No promises, the fear. Work assignment had become a treasure key. Olivia kept finding new ways to make employment acceptable. An hour later, deep beneath the palace, McKenna and Harrison followed him into the sealed vault complex, the paired jade keys Joined in his palm, lighting the stone door, hidden storage opened. First, carrying residue from Olivia's summoning ritual, that residue had caught something else when it pulled him across worlds, a black object shaped like a coffin stood inside the first chamber. Metal bands crossed the lid and old scratches ran along one edge. He recognized every single mark. McKenna stepped closer, asking if that came from Earth. He nodded. What is it? A weapon, he answered. She reached toward the latch. He caught her wrist before she touched it. The coffin weapon belonged to the master, who raised him inside the Assassin Guild. It came from his assassin past, and he had no intention of opening it near anyone he wanted alive. Do not touch this, he told McKenna, her hand went still. McKenna had watched him carry a mountain and erase 2 fortresses. This was the first warning that made her stop asking questions. She stepped back. Understood. He moved the coffin weapon into Baxter's storage without opening it. He would not touch it again until he chose otherwise. Then Harrison turned the joined jade toward the second door. The Imperial Vault opened. Spirit stones filled the chamber from floor to ceiling. The stones sat in shining hills. Behind sealed chests, weapon racks, and stacks of royal reserves, some piles reached the upper balconies, others pressed against doors nobody had opened. In decades, the visible wealth exceeded Brighton's public treasury several times. Over, Harrison walked past him, counted one pile, looked toward the next chamber, and made one small sound. Then his chef fainted. He folded beside the door before McKenna could catch him. Looking down at her father, she noted he survived a family fight but lost to money. Reasonable weakness, he agreed. Olivia arrived after the vault flare reached her workroom. She entered, saw the treasure mountain stopping beside Harrison's unconscious body. She asked if her father had left all of this. He pointed at Harrison, apparently enough to make a minister faint. McKenna knelt and slapped her father's cheek. Wake up, the Empire needs your greed. Harrison snapped his eyes open, staring at the glittering stones again. He immediately sat up, declaring that they could finally finish construction on the southern roads. McKenna grabbed his shoulder, reminding his father that he had literally just fainted. But Harrison stood up anyway, just to win the argument, pointing right across the vault. Order weapons, refugee farms, capital walls, winter armor. The old man had only been unconscious for 8 seconds and woke up with a whole national budget ready. Olivia watched him claim piles for Brighton, then turned to Austin, telling him to take whatever he wanted. That was trust, wealth, and permission all in one sentence, a dangerous combination. Austin dragged enough spirit stones together to make a flat mound, then lay down. McKenna stared. McKenna asked if he built a bed, while Harrison pointed directly at Austin's new pillow. Harrison complained those stones could finish a road, but Austin told him to choose another pile. Harrison gestured at the millions. Exactly, Austin said, so stop budgeting his mattress. Olivia covered her mouth, but her smile was obvious. She told Harrison that the bed belonged to Austin. The treasure suddenly felt like claimed family property. To be fair, those spirit stones were warm, incredibly expensive, and already fully paid for. Pure luxury had finally become functional the moment Austin's head touched the pile. A sharp pain shot between his eyes. A third point of light appeared above his forehead, and the vault vanished. Suddenly, he stood inside a vast dark space, with an ancient man floating before him, wearing old robes with 99 stars circling his body. At last, the Guardian declared that a worthy inheritor had finally received his legacy. Austin looked around, asking if this ancient entity was inside his mind. He claimed to be from an age beyond understanding, a classic mentor entrance. Those floating lights came with a voice primed for a 3-hour prophecy, but then Baxter's interface opened beside Austin. The Guardian looked toward the digital assistant and stopped talking. Thousands of blinding lights unfolded behind the system presence. The ancient man's 99 stars suddenly looked like a total discount display. Then the Guardian stared at Austin. The sheer brightness of Austin's soul filled the entire dark space. The Guardian's stars faded. He drifted backward, adjusted his robe, and tried to act in charge again, deciding that Austin possessed pretty unusual potential. Submit the inheritance to my guidance, and I may let you carry it. Austin stared right back. When Austin noted the book chose him, the Guardian scoffed. The book is merely a gate, he said. When Austin asked who he was, the Guardian bragged. His grand entrance had lasted 10 seconds, but he still acted like he owned the place. Austin asked what the inheritance actually wanted from him, but the Guardian avoided the question. He reached for the golden symbols entering Austin's mind, calling obedience and Unnecessary price. When Austin blocked his hand, his smile vanished. Austin called for Baxter. The assistant quickly scanned him, confirming hostile intent. He was attempting unauthorized access to the inheritance core, and his energy was compatible with Baxter's. Upgrade core. The Guardian's stars jerked toward Baxter, and 3 immediately dimmed before he could finish raising his hands. He quickly backtracked, claiming that Austin misunderstood. I am your guide, he pleaded. Austin simply looked at Baxter and ordered, eat him. The Guardian's face finally lost all ancient dignity. Perfect. Baxter opened a black field. The Guardian tried to command the inheritance, but nothing answered. He desperately tried to escape Austin's mind, but the dark field closed around his ankles. Stop this, he screamed, claiming they needed his knowledge. Austin replied that he only required an honest answer. Choosing to trespass has consequences. The 99 stars went dark, and the Guardian quickly followed. He could barely even protest. The legendary mentor became mere system food. Wrong inheritance and wrong host. Then Baxter announced compatible. Energy was acquired. The upgrade began. Its duration remains completely unknown. Then Baxter suddenly vanished. His helper was gone. The assistant devoured an ancient guardian and immediately took a paid vacation. Vault returned. Olivia, McKenna, and Harrison stared at his new mark. The mysterious mark sat right above his eyes while he sat upright on the spirit stone bed. He told them it was a minor issue. Harrison pointed at the treasure. He relaxed immediately. By nightfall, the prince moved his claimed spirit stone bed. He dragged it into his palace room. Baxter remained offline, with no active scans. No voice and no entertainment. He had lived without a system before, but this was cruel. Losing his amusement first felt brutal. Later, the assassin made a confession. Black Hollow Hall connected 3 facts by midnight, concluding that their poison elder was dead. Their palace scout was missing, and the rumor pointed to his room. The assassin arrived to test if this supposedly useless prince was actually a hidden powerhouse. But he fell asleep. After midnight, a window latch clicked open. Floating inside without even touching the floor, the killer crossed the room with a black dagger. He drove it straight into the prince's throat. The blade instantly shattered. Metal fragments bounced across the spirit stones. The prince opened his eyes. The intruder stood frozen with half a handle. They stared, and the killer spoke first. He claimed he only used the flat side. The prince examined the broken edge. It was just an accident, the assassin insisted, desperately trying to explain. That lie was incredibly desperate, especially considering the man had snuck through his window in black. Honestly, who stabs someone in bed and then blames the weapon angle? The prince bent the remaining metal. Good news, he said, it is recyclable. Suddenly, the bedroom door burst open because Bridget had been guarding the corridor outside all night. She spotted the mask, the broken blade, and the Black Hollow Hall insignia. She warned it was an elite assassin, carrying a rare rank 6 blade. Holding up the newly bent metal, the prince joked that his estate had gotten much smaller. Bridget did not laugh. The killer stared at the metal and his unmarked throat. Terrified, the killer backed away, muttering about the inheritance rumors. They put this room on their list right before their supreme poison elder suddenly vanished. Their palace scout was gone too. The killer arrived expecting an easy target. He expected a sleeping prince, but the shattered blade gave him his answer. The killer shrieked, "You destroyed our network and our city cell. You are the one. You are the hidden god they seek." Bridget lunged to silence him, but he yelled louder. All his professional discipline vanished. He screamed that the prince was the powerhouse. He yelled toward the corridor, screaming about realms beyond numbers. Down the hall, a floorboard shifted. Oh, this is about to get so messy. He had discovered the secret and announced it right next to his wife. A familiar black fracture sliced open beside the intruder, widening into a rift. The assassin backed away in pure terror, but the prince grabbed his collar for some privacy. He threw him through the rift. The opening snapped shut mid-scream. With no destination set, he never knew where the man landed. Bridget stared. The empty air, you threw him out of the room. Technically, he replied. Bridget asked where he went. Away, he told her. She absolutely hated that answer. The assassin remained gone. He crossed the hall and checked Olivia's door. Her breathing remained slow. She hadn't woken, so he returned to his spirit stone bed, pushing the broken dagger pieces aside and went back to sleep. By sunrise, Harrison was gone, and for the first time, brute force could kill the person he was trying to rescue. The next morning at the Abbott family home, Regina found Harrison's room empty, his coat still hanging by the door. His breakfast sat Untouched, the bed had never been used. Grand General Regina Abbott had sent her husband away after a late argument. By sunrise, anger had turned to guilt. McKenna found a scorched black hollow hall teleport marker beside the outer wall. The same kind had powered the Poison City formation, so the hall had planted a root during that attack. Harrison's broken pocket seal lay beside it. He had fought long enough to leave one clue. The hall had still taken him. Olivia arrived before the household guards finished searching the street. She looked at the marker, then at Regina's face. Harrison's refugee work made enemies, Olivia warned. Black Hollow Hall already attacked one city. Assume this is a lure. Regina gripped her weapon. I sent him outside. Olivia caught her arm, then bring him home. Blame yourself afterward. Harrison had helped raise Olivia and rebuild Brighton through the succession crisis. Olivia looked at the empty doorway. He is family. We are bringing him back. That promise pulled Regina upright. Olivia locked down the house and split the search with Regina across territory controlled by Black Hollow Hall. McKenna took the faster option. She ran straight to him. Minutes later, in his palace bedroom, McKenna kicked open the door and woke him on his spirit stone bed. Black Hollow Hall took my father, McKenna said. He sat up. Somebody kidnapped my chef, he deadpanned. McKenna's hands were shaking. The joke died there. The poison Elder had targeted a city near his household. An assassin from Black Hollow Hall had entered his room the previous night. Now, a teleport marker had appeared outside Harrison's home. Harrison controlled refugee money, knew Olivia's schedule, and cooked at his table. Black Hollow Hall had chosen the person who connected all three. They were building a leash around everyone close to him. That was the first useful thing their faction had done. They made the target obvious. He picked up the marker. One burned line still pulsed. East, stay with your mother, he told McKenna. I'm coming. No, Black Hollow Hall already has one abbot. He stepped toward the window. Don't make me collect a matching set. McKenna grabbed his sleeve. What about your secret? I'll bring Harrison back first. McKenna released his sleeve. He launched through the window and shattered the frame behind him. The palace roof cracked under his first step. McKenna shielded her face while the green trail crossed the capital and vanished east. Baxter was still offline. No scan, no map. The marker gave him one direction, and Black Hollow Hall had given him motivation. He held the burned metal in one hand and followed its pulse through every mountain barrier in his way. If the signal weakened, he moved faster. While he crossed the Empire, Olivia later told him, she reached Black Hollow Hall's border. At first, openly entering the faction's territory could spark a war. She hovered above the mountain range, measuring the barrier and deciding if Harrison's life was worth the risk. Suddenly, a green streak flashed past. Olivia swung once but hit empty air. The streak had already crossed the barrier. Its sheer force peeled clouds from the peak, leaving a glowing rift right through the sect's outer formation. Olivia stared at the massive breach, then surged right through before the guards could react. She could not see his face, only knowing that this unknown powerhouse had just entered the very fortress she was attacking. She also knew Harrison was inside, so the Empress followed her husband, one broken barrier behind. Deep within the Black Hollow headquarters, Harrison had already uncovered their true motives, a harrowing tale he would recount much later. The teleportation route had dragged him through 3 sealed chambers. The Hall Lord waited in the final room, flanked by a torturer and an executioner. The Lord ordered Harrison to keep supporting the Emperor at court, while reporting on Olivia's every movement. Military plans and visitors, claiming a useless husband, kept her comfortable. The Lord explained that Harrison would help keep him close. They believed the Emperor was Olivia's only weakness. Honestly, their intelligence department was practically begging to be wiped out. Now, the Lord demanded constant reports. Harrison immediately realized the cult was plotting something far beyond just pressuring them. The Lord offered Harrison a massive private estate, prestigious title, and enough wealth to safely relocate his family outside Brighton. Harrison asked only what would happen to Olivia after he helped them. The Lord smiled, promising the Empress would rule while she stayed useful. Harrison's jaw tightened as he flatly refused to spy on Empress Olivia. Enraged, the Lord threatened Regina and McKenna, detailing their exact routes and guard rotations down to the bedroom where McKenna slept as a child. Still, Harrison refused, declaring Brighton had saved him from poverty and that the royal family gave him a home. Since his family lived under that flag, the Lord leaned close, warning that pain would correct his loyalty. Harrison answered they brought too little With that, the torturer forced a hideous black scentworm directly into Harrison's body. The rule was simple. The worm devoured his organs, and only incense slowed it. Only the actual antidote offered a cure. The torturer burned the incense just long enough for Harrison to catch his breath, before extinguishing it to let the agony resume. The agonizing pain forced Harrison to his knees, his face completely pale and hands shaking. As the worm twisted, his fingers carved shallow grooves into the stone floor. Yet he still struggled to stand, vomiting blood onto the cold stone. The executioner laughed, forcing Harrison's head toward the ground, but he caught himself on one palm, refusing the order to kneel. Harrison forced himself upright, spitting back that he would rather die standing than live as a traitor. He quietly apologized to his wife and daughter. Under his breath, the executioner raised his blade, but the ceiling suddenly shattered. The emperor crashed through the roof, slamming the executioner straight through the floor. Two guards rushed him from both sides. He caught one weapon, shattered it, and hurled both men through the wall, as thick dust rolled across the chamber. Every assassin retreated except the Hall Lord. He still held Harrison and knew it. Harrison looks up with tearful eyes and tries to stand straighter. Austin tells him good morning, joking that his customer service is terrible. Harrison croaks out Austin's name, while Austin reminds him of McKenna's childhood. She still blames a chair for her 7th birthday, making Harrison stare. He wheezes, identity confirmed, family dignity totally ruined. Talk about a chaotic rescue plan. The Hall Lord lifts the incense box. He warns that the worm kills, as the torturer touches Harrison's chest. Dark shapes twist beneath the skin. Austin stops, containing his immense power. He could easily flatten this entire mountain, but his friend would die first. The Hall Lord smiles, realizing he finally has some real leverage here. Austin knows he can't save his friend if the feeding begins. Once that worm starts eating, Harrison is dead. The Hall Lord speaks. He complains that Austin destroyed their city branch and made scouts vanish. Now they demand obedience, drawing the right connections but the wrong lesson. Austin faces the torturer directly, demanding they hand over the antidote. The torturer opens the incense box, easing the pain but leaving dark lines. Austin points out it only sedates the beast. The Hall Lord smiles. Harrison shakes his head, croaking out that Austin shouldn't protect them. Regina and McKenna will understand, even if McKenna hates the choice. Austin refuses. The Hall Lord laughs, mockingly translating Harrison's suicidal request. Talk about a trap. The Lord slides a blood pact forward. The rules are strict. Austin must never harm anyone inside the headquarters. Only then will they cure Harrison, or heaven will execute Austin. Suddenly, Baxter's voice crackles inside his head with a critical warning. This pact uses local heavenly law, but Austin's lineage might outrank it. Because of that, the ultimate outcome cannot be fully guaranteed here. The Hall Lord mistakes Austin's brief hesitation for pure, helpless fear. He claims Austin has hit his limit against heaven's absolute laws. Austin's dragon lineage has shattered local standards before, but this is risky. A divine execution is still dangerous. Meanwhile, Harrison tries to rise. He fails. The Hall Lord orders him to sign or watch his friend die. Austin presses his thumb down, letting the blood mark seal his choice. With the pact burning his palm, family remains his only true motivation. The torturer administers the real antidote, making the dark lines fade. The deadly worm dissolves just in time, letting Harrison breathe again. Austin gives the cultists 30 seconds to celebrate their fake victory. He carries Harrison past the gate, then doubles back through a tunnel. They hide right behind the chamber wall. His old guild taught this. His training makes disappearing easy, though the cult only researched his power. They completely forgot his actual profession, hearing them leave but not stay. Inside the chamber, the furious Hall Lord slaps his intelligence officer. He hits the floor as the boss rages about the weak prince. Now Austin is protected, but the torturer laughs at his helplessness. They plan to hire outsiders, poison his staff, and strike the Empress. The Lord orders a second strike before Austin and Harrison even escape. The Hall Lord ordered his subordinates to use outsiders, since the pact blocked his hands. The officer asked if Olivia was a target. Target her especially, and the prince will crawl back. Hurt her, and both the Empress and the prince will easily fall back under control. He stepped inside the room. Great planning meeting, he mocked. The laughter stopped instantly as the smug Hall Lord raised his glowing, binding blood pact. You poisoned Harrison and threatened his entire family. He slowly looked around the chamber, pointing out they had used every single dirty trick. An enforcer shot toxic venom, but he walked right through it completely unharmed. One quick strike, the entire mountain headquarters shook. The surviving killers rushed for the exits, but stopped when the pact burned his hand. Glowing marks climbed his wrist like hot wire, but he ignored it. This ancient, highly oppressive force did not belong to this dark hall. The sky turned purple as the leader laughed. Thunder shook the mountain air as a lightning dragon descended. It crashed down through the broken roof, bringing a terrifying power nobody could ever predict. The killers knelt before the massive beast and pointed at him. Outside the mountain, the immense pressure forced Olivia straight out of the sky. She landed and watched purple lightning wrap the fortress. She still could not see who stood inside the heart of that terrifying electric storm. "If you came for his head, then take it," he challenged calmly. The dragon lowered its massive head, its crackling lightning softening. Its giant violet eyes stared at the blood mark, then looked deep into his soul. It sensed the ancient lineage in his veins and circled like a protector. The beast turned to the kneeling killers and let out a warning roar. The ground shattered, forcing the terrified hall lord to press his face to the floor. Harrison forgot his agonizing pain and stared up at the impossible sight. The dragon retreated back into the sky, leaving the blood pact cracked. Baxter confirmed his dragon lineage held senior authority. The pact dissolved and the hall lord fell flat, begging. The torturer followed, along with every surviving killer in the room. Heaven had arrived to strike him down, but left them with only an angry storm. He stood over the leader, demanding they name one good deed. They claimed they maintained order, but they had poisoned his chef. The intelligence officer claimed he only followed orders. The boss begged, promising lifelong service as he slowly raised a single finger. As they shouted excuses, he opened massive spatial rifts. The entire leadership vanished completely before anyone found a single good deed. Harrison stared at the empty room, pointing out he skipped number 2 entirely. He shrugged and said they were wasting valuable time, warning Harrison to keep this absolute secret. He wanted his power kept far away from Olivia's court. Harrison noted that keeping secrets got harder every time he destroyed a faction. They eventually located the massive hidden vault containing exactly 32 million legendary spirit stones. The first vault chamber was completely packed to the absolute brim with loose spirit stones. The second held storage rings, while the third contained a fortune. They funded several small wars. The Black Hollow Hall tortured civilians while sitting. Above a literal mountain of gold, a truly charitable group, Harrison, counted the first rows of gold and quickly assigned it to Brighton. Harrison swept his hand over the bins. 10 million repairs the southern farms. Another 8 strengthens the border. The rest goes straight to the royal treasury. He kept just one storage ring, leaving the rest to the victim and his. Rescuer Harrison argued he was the victim, so he had to prove it. Harrison pointed at the piles. 32 million is enough compensation, he argued. Counting for missed breakfast, emergency travel, emotional distress, and damaged sleep plus the insult to his chef's supply, they still owed him 5 million. Harrison sighed that he was billing a dead organization, but debt survives. Any management changes. By late afternoon, he returned Harrison to the capital, Regina. Reached him first, striking his shoulder and snapping that he left after an argument. Harrison protested that he was kidnapped, but that was no real defense. Then Regina grabbed his robe and held him hard enough to stop their breathing while McKenna hugged his other side. Harrison complained about his ribs but refused to let go. Regina buried her face into his shoulder, apologizing too quietly for anyone without his sharp hearing. Harrison just asked what she wanted for dinner. He left the family reunion carrying Black Hollow Hall's 32 million stones. Before he reached the palace, a messy woman stepped into the road and stared at his ring. On his journey back, this mysterious woman blocked his path. Stepped right in front of him, wearing a torn cloak and dusty boots. Her gorgeous face made the disguise useless. Honestly, he noticed her face first. She stared at the storage ring holding those 32 million stones, then looked up at him, begging to be taken care of. He stopped. That sentence definitely had some incredibly expensive interpretations. She stepped closer and smiled, offering devoted personal service as payment. A gorgeous beggar had approached out of nowhere, demanding full support. His retirement plans were officially ruined. He said no, but she grabbed his sleeve, demanding food, shelter, and piggybacks. He pointed out she was describing actual jobs, but she admitted she hated working. That part sounded genuine. She leaned against his arm like old friends, though. They had only met 12 seconds ago. He stepped back, but she followed. You are persistent, he remarked. She countered that he was wealthy. Relationship. Nearby, an older official was directing some labor crews by the road. He waved the man over, instructing him to give her a job. The livestock crew starts before sunrise, keeping her busy until she learns effort. Like the official looked from her to his ring and asked nothing. The woman actually brightened up, asking if he would check on her progress. He tapped her forehead, promising rewards after work. Her eyes warmed in a way that made the official politely stare at the trees. He narrowed his eyes, accusing her of enjoying this. She whispered that he was very good at it. He had survived a terrifying heavenly dragon that morning, which felt much simpler. When she asked for a piggyback, he simply pointed at her functioning legs. She sighed, used them, and walked away with the official. She smiles, he runs. No way is he giving her a performance review. He looks back, the road is completely empty. The relief official later swears that armed guards appeared from the forest and snatched her away. The official never heard a name, but he remembers every guard bowing. At the time, Austin shrugged it off as rich person nonsense. Dinner time. That evening at the Abbott family table, Harrison cooks a mountain of food to recover from kidnapping. With pure volume, McKenna sits nearby. Bridget guards the wine. Regina stares at Harrison, terrified that Black Hollow Hall might steal him away again. Mid-meal, Austin tells them about the beautiful lady demanding food and shelter. Free rides and rewards for doing nothing. Harrison stops carving. The roast, he asks if she expected Austin's support. McKenna laughs first. Bridget follows, even Regina smiles. Harrison points his carving knife at him. The laziest man in Brighton is asked to support another adult. Austin found the request absurd. McKenna laughs, teasing that he married an empress for breakfast. Austin reminds her that Olivia proposed first. Bridget lifts her cup. Maybe she sensed professional freeloading experience. Regina jokes. Did he at least ask if she can cook? Harrison looks insulted. Nobody replaces him. The man had literally survived organ-eating poison and now got competitive over dinner. Austin taps McKenna's forehead, then Bridget's. Harrison ducks quickly before he reaches him. They survived a kidnapping, only to immediately return to teasing him. Honestly, it felt healthy. The next morning at the palace breakfast table, Olivia hands Austin an official complaint about pigs. Harrison had placed a herd of giant spirit pigs on royal pasture. Their meat had become insanely valuable, so Austin claimed his cut. After all, rare pork is a stable retirement asset. Olivia taps the paper. Your pigs now cost more than armored horses. He says they taste better. Merchants accuse the palace of price fixing. Austin shrugs. Let them stop buying then. Olivia narrows her eyes. As punishment, one pig will be served at dinner. Cruel but fair. She slides a second note over. 2 pigs have vanished from the livestock crew. Wait for it. The word vanished connects 3 major facts. She had been assigned there. Armed guards had collected her. The relief official had found an empty pen afterward. Austin drops his food. Olivia watches him stand. Austin, she stole my pigs, she says. You own 32 million stones. He grabs the note. Those pigs were earning interest. He leaves the palace yelling about livestock theft while his wife laughs behind him. An hour later, outside it. Royal camp beyond the capital, he finds the beggar wearing pure gold. Her gray cloak is gone, replaced by a stunning black and gold dress. Guards in dark armor line both sides of a silk pavilion. One holds a lacquered box overflowing with spirit stones. The woman sits beneath a jeweled canopy. The beggar outfit was just a disguise. She looks spectacular, and she knows he noticed, but then he remembers his pigs, accusing her of stealing his livestock. Woman smiles. She only borrowed his attention, calling it theft with better posture. He crosses the pavilion and taps her forehead. 3 guards reach for their weapons. She raises one finger and every hand stops. Then she closes her eyes and smiles wider. Same reaction, same dangerous woman she is. The roadside beggar. She's amazed he remembered her, but he just points toward the livestock pens. She reminds him of the 2 pigs he took, gesturing toward a lacquered box holding over 1 million spirit stones. Serena folds her arms, declaring she isn't selling. Hoping to prove she never needed to sell them, Austin looks behind the pavilion. Wondering where they are being fed, he glances behind the pavilion. He looks behind the pavilion to find both pigs actually dining from silver troughs while 3 armored attendants brush them. The Thieves had upgraded their livestock. Austin turns to Serena, asking if this is better than how she treated workers. She looks delighted by this. Her guards stare at Austin like he just scolded a literal natural disaster. The woman rises and finally reveals her identity as Serena Duval, the exiled eldest princess of Westmere, announcing she now leads the survivors as their empress. They are the Ashen Crown Remnant. Instantly, every guard drops to one knee as one captain lowers his head so quickly his plume strikes the ground. The relief official who assigned her the livestock work appears at the entrance, dropping his ledger in absolute terror. Serena simply waves, thanking him for giving her such excellent work. The terrified official looks to Austin for guidance, who quietly tells him to run before she requests another shift. Westmere had fallen, yet Serena still controls its surviving soldiers, massive wealth, and territory. She disguised herself in rags just to cross Brighton unnoticed. Now Serena steps beside Austin, offering to share power since her restoration magic requires a trusted husband. If he helps restore Westmere, she promises to lay a whole kingdom at his feet. A golden doorway opens behind her, revealing a private vault packed with endless spirit stones, powerful weapons, and sealed chests holding wealth that runs into the billions. The first chamber alone could easily buy Black Hollow Hall several times over. The second holds enough weapons to make even Regina forget about dinner. The third chamber stretches past the light, forcing Austin to stare longer than dignity allows. Serena tilts her head, noting he eyed her vault longer than he looked at her. Austin dryly replies that the vault makes far fewer demands. She purrs that she can become much more demanding, grabbing his hand, proposing marriage. The offer includes a gorgeous empress, a fallen kingdom, and enough wealth to make Harrison faint on the spot. Serena watches his face, smiling with total confidence. She already knows about his appetite, his greed, and the 32 million ring, expecting these billions to easily win the argument. Yet Austin still pulls his hand away, making every single kneeling guard stare even harder. One glances at the golden vault, then at Austin, waiting for greed to win, but Austin disappoints them, declaring he is married to Olivia. Serena's smile tightens. She argues political marriages can be shared, but his marriage is actual family. Serena taps the golden doorway, asking if he really refuses billions for her. Yes, he replies, demanding to know if Olivia is more beautiful. Austin merely shakes his head. That question starts wars, but she can win them. His answer only sharpens her interest rather than anger. She offers friendship instead. Austin steps back, asking her to define friend. She simply wants his time and company. Serena holds up one finger, offering 1 million spirit stones monthly. Austin refuses. She offers 2 million, then raises 3 fingers to offer 3 million instead. 3 million actually makes him hesitate, and Serena instantly catches his brief slip. Before he recovers, she tells him to fund Brighton's refugees and roads, or whatever public project Harrison is already complaining about. A stronger Brighton can support Westmere later. Harrison could put that money to work by sunset. Dirty move. He set the boundaries allowed. No second marriage, no bedroom. Claims she had to ask before touching him and never call him hers behind Olivia's back. Olivia had to hear the deal from him. Serena repeated each rule without joking, then she added one of her own. Serena pointed at him. You don't vanish. After taking the money, he reserved the right to flee emergencies, though she created most of them. Then the clause matters, he told her. Serena held out. Storage ring, 3 million monthly, conversation, public outings, and whatever affection he willingly surrendered. He accepted the ring. Then he felt the exact moment he sold his free time to a second empress in Brighton. Serena murmured, what do they call a man supported by powerful women? A prince. Her smile said she had found a better answer. As he left the pavilion, one attendant hurried to Serena. Your Majesty, you have only met him twice. Serena watched him walk away. He rejected a kingdom for his wife. She had excellent taste. Another attendant whispered that their empress was completely finished. One attendant dropped a rolled map. Another caught her by the sleeve before she followed him down the road. A third asked whether the restoration plan should still come first. Serena answered that Austin could be both plan and reward. He heard every line from half a mile away. The guards were right. Serena was completely cooked. Talk about falling hard. That night, Baxter's upgrade finally completed. Light gathered above the spirit stone bed and formed a woman in a fitted black coat. She had silver eyes, long dark hair, and the kind of face Designed by someone with suspiciously specific tastes, he stared, Baxter. Folded her arms, upgrade successful, human avatar enabled, you're a woman. Baxter replied, this form was generated from host preferences. That sounds like slander. Baxter turned once, the black coat shifted with her. Movement, he forgot his next sentence. She noticed, Master, would you prefer? Different clothing, black tights, he answered before caution arrived. Baxter changed the coat into black tights and a shorter jacket. She stepped between him and the window. The protective barrier tightened with her movement. The avatar was also a bodyguard. He lost his argument. Baxter raised one eyebrow. Preference confirmed. In his defense, she asked. She noted he supplied the answer in under 1 second. His own system had caught him staring and logged the answer. He walked around her once. You're still Baxter. The same system, expanded interface. Improved protection, improved storage control. He pointed at her. No second. Assistant hiding inside her. Baxter shook her head. No good. His household already had enough women changing the rules. Baxter offered sleep assistance and placed a protective barrier around the room. After the night, assassin and Harrison's kidnapping, he accepted. The dream began in a concrete training yard. On Earth, he was 6 years old. Children stood in numbered rows while instructors read assassin rankings. He was first. The instructors praised accuracy. They punished hesitation. Nobody asked what the children wanted. A small dog waited behind the barracks. His name was Baxter. He was the only living thing in that place that touched him without trying to train, test, or hurt him. He hid. He brought food after every exercise, the pup sleeping nearby while Austin cleaned. Weapons too heavy for his young hands. The man who raised him found them, placing a pistol in his hand. His foster father ordered his first mission, kill the dog. Baxter looked up at him. The memory broke before the gun moved, and Austin woke with his hand clutching empty air. The system avatar sat right beside his bed. Baxter had seen the dream through the barrier, admitting he knew why Austin named him. Austin simply looked away. Neither of them asked what happened next, the very next morning inside the minister's hall. Austin placed Serena's first 3 million stone payment on Harrison's table, announcing they were opening an orphanage. Harrison checked the ring, noting it covered the building, food, staff, and schooling. He pushed 3 old objections aside and immediately started calling builders before any minister found a fourth. A senior minister objected that a foreign payment could not fund a royal charity. Clifton turned on him. Before Austin could approve the charter, Clifton ordered, and the minister sat so fast his chair scraped. A treasury official asked who had donated the money. Foreign friendship, Austin answered, making McKenna cough while Bridget looked at the ceiling. Harrison stared at the ring, then deliberately stopped asking questions. Then Clifton entered carrying calming incense. The polished snake who had demanded Austin's execution walked straight to his table and bowed. Prince Austin, Clifton said warmly, your concern for Brighton's children honors the throne. Every minister stopped as Darren stood behind him, cloth covering both eyes. Clifton placed the incense beside Austin, asking him to accept this gift. Court pressure can be tiring for a kept man king, Clifton sneered. The title spread through the room before the smoke did. One minister repeated it under his breath. Another smiled and immediately hid behind a document. Harrison looked offended on Austin's behalf for 3 seconds, then decided the title was accurate. By the time Clifton finished bowing, 2 clerks were already using Kepman King as a role label on the orphanage notes. Austin considered objecting, but Harrison moved Serena's 3 million into the building fund, so Austin let the title earn rent instead. He smelled the incense twice and found no poison. Clifton's smile tightened. Of course not, Clifton insisted. McKenna rested a hand on her sword. 3 ministers suddenly remembered urgent work near the opposite wall. Clifton publicly supported the orphanage, pushed the remaining objections aside, and praised Austin's talent for attracting resources without labor. He sounded friendly, though his left eye twitched through the entire speech. The man had tried to kill Austin with a book yesterday. Today he brought incense and a flattering insult. That afternoon, Austin returned to Serena's camp and asked why Clifton had bowed. Serena explained what happened the previous afternoon while Austin was returning to the palace. Clifton and Darren had entered through her eastern gate because Clifton wanted the ashen crown as a counterweight to Olivia. Darren ruined the meeting before his father finished bowing. He stared at Serena after one guard told him to lower his eyes. Then Darren called her a prize his family could place beside Brighton's throne. Serena lifted one finger. Her guard struck Once dark pressure crushed Darren to his knees and took his sight. He screamed into both hands while Clifton knelt beside him. Clifton asked for. Serena dryly asks Clifton if his son always treats women like inherited furniture. Darren tries to stand, calling Austin a parasite who stole. Guards slam him down. Serena looks right at Clifton. She warns Clifton that Austin is her chosen man and she will destroy their faction. Clifton asks what she wants. Serena demands protection. Austin's position and smile while doing it. Meanwhile, Darren spits that Austin stole too. Empresses, the guard squeezes his shoulder until he shuts up. Talking, Clifton submits. He entered seeking an ally but leaves. Working for Olivia's husband, talk about a completely disastrous networking event. She finishes telling him, looking incredibly smug. Bragging about fixing his minister, he quickly corrects her. Smiling, he smiles badly, but Serena calls that a separate defect. She leans closer, asking him to marry her as a mere friendship contract for now. Serena now has 3 million reasons every month to test how much friendship his marriage can actually survive. Before their first date, he tells Olivia everything. Showing her the contract in her study, Olivia reads through every single rule. Olivia looks up, dryly questioning if 3 million a month is just for conversation. Austin calls it foreign investment, but Olivia, she calls it dating with invoices. She warns him never to hide a meeting, her fingers tightening on the page. Over the next 3 weeks, Serena pays him for his time. He calls it investment, Harrison calls it funding, Serena calls it progress, and Olivia calls it dating with invoices. The rules remain simple. Serena pays 3 million spirit stones. Every month, he chooses the meetings, and she must ask before touching him. All of this money goes to Harrison to fund the orphanage. Serena respects every boundary, yet immediately pushes the next one, their first paid trip is to a hot spring outside the capital, where he arrives fully clothed. Wearing a full robe, trousers, and boots, he meets Serena, who is lightly wrapped. She looks deeply offended by his excessive layers, immediately complaining about his clothes. Austin retorts that keeping the water away is exactly the point. Serena steps closer. She points out he accepted payment for companionship, yet looks ready for a boarder patrol. Austin motions to his boots, defending himself by noting his wife owns that boarder. Serena laughs, asking to at least hold his sleeve. He permits only that much. She hooks a finger through the fabric and leans against his shoulder, asking if Olivia knows where he is. Austin replies that his wife knows about their arrangement. Austin notes his wife is smart enough to be incredibly dangerous. Serena looks pleased, viewing his wife's jealousy as a paid luxury. Heavy boots in a hot spring, she teases, is practically criminal. Austin counters that he signed a friendship contract, not a total footwear surrender. An attendant walks in with fruit, sees them together, and backs out immediately. The gossip spreads to the palace before Austin even gets home. Meanwhile, her gold buys crucial beds and winter clothes for the orphanage, with workers dispatched immediately. By sunset, those kids have a dry roof. Serena has his sleeve, and he looks guilty enough to start rumors. That is some highly efficient charity. 4 days later, they meet up again. This time it is a private massage pavilion, with another payment cleared instantly. In the private massage pavilion, Serena paid another 3 million before Austin sat down. Serena promised this was just a conversation, then she dismissed the attendants. She placed both hands on his shoulders as he looked back, noting he changed. He looked tense, joking that he had 2 empresses managing his posture. Serena leaned close to his ear, whispering that only one was actually improving it. The massage was excellent, but he only let her work on his shoulders. He rejected requests for fewer layers, making Serena call him stubborn. He called himself well-funded. She worked a neck knot, asking if Olivia did this. He replied that Olivia can cut mountains, but Serena smiled at his deflection. That was not her question. Recognizing the obvious trap, he refused to enter. Serena rested her chin on his shoulder, asking if this counted as touching. She wanted to continue, while he calculated the 3 million in Harrison's hands. She won her 60 seconds of touch, smiling victoriously the entire time. Her payment funded the orphanage dining hall and Brighton's new Eastern Road. Talk about a wild compromise. He literally sold his afternoon for kingdom infrastructure. Even if Olivia used a sword later, his third date was a mountain retreat. Outside the city, Serena wore a gold-trimmed red dress, catching his eye immediately. She caught him looking, but he defended himself by blaming the dress. Accepting his answer, she transferred the next payment and offered her arm. He reminded her about their boundaries, but she raised an eyebrow playfully. She asked to stand closer, calling the prince a very rich beggar. He shut down the topic, but she teased he only married to avoid work. Telling him not to get strict now, her third payment went to schools. Money funded orphanage play areas, and Harrison reported the first success. Children were moving into finished dormitories with hot food and active teachers. Staff were already debating schedules, and Serena read the update over his shoulder. She realized their dates were helping children, though he preferred calling them meetings. Serena tucked the note into his coat, daring him to keep correcting her. She loved watching him lose arguments, especially after Harrison confirmed the cash. With the third payment secure, Serena stopped and asked to steal a kiss. He had plenty of time to dodge, but granted her exactly one kiss. The quick kiss left her looking victorious, but her eyes suddenly narrowed. She realized it was not his first, as Serena tightly gripped his sleeve. She accused Olivia of stealing a head start through total political fraud. Despite paying millions, the second empress still found a way to feel cheated. Talk about beautiful chaos, Serena claimed the rest of his entire afternoon anyway. She clung to his arm, fully testing the limits of his permission. She even ordered lunch for two and playfully tried to feed him. He took the plate away, warning her that feeding him was off limits. She teased that kissing back was also off limits, but he stood firm. He reminded her that one kiss did not rewrite their strict boundaries. Serena just smiled, teasing him for maintaining his annoyingly strong defense. Later that night, Olivia walked into his bedroom, holding a jar of wine. She was already slightly drunk, keeping her balance but sounding very tired. Olivia sat beside him and placed her cup down, asking him to stay. He looked at her with concern, asking if something had gone wrong. "Everything is too loud alone," she whispered, resting her forehead against his shoulder. "Only you make it quiet," Olivia murmured. He stayed beside his wife until she drifted off. Even in sleep, her hand remained tightly closed around his sleeve. This paid arrangement was turning into a real marriage problem. The next afternoon, Serena and he walked above the Capitol when Baxter warned him of distant watchers. Two observers were currently measuring Empress Olivia's cultivation. The system warned one was Prime Minister Clifton. The second man stood beside Clifton on a distant ridge, white hair flowing around his shoulders, while a pale symbol turned above his hand. Serena followed his gaze, losing her smile. "That is Orson Thayer," Serena explained, "a dangerous fate seer from Crownspire Pavilion, an old faction holding a deeply unhealthy interest in royal bloodlines." Serena knew them from the records she carried out of Westmere. His hearing caught Orson's voice echoing over the distance. "Olivia has gained a year of progress in weeks." Orson noted such growth should be impossible. The pale symbol above Orson's hand turned directly toward the palace. Installed, Baxter tried scanning it, but the signal collapsed behind a spire barrier. Clifton looked toward the palace. "Can you identify the cause?" Orson replied, "Not from here." Clifton grunted, neither could he, leaning closer. To Orson, that polished snake had found someone willing to keep measuring his wife. A guard approached Serena, reporting that Clifton and Orson wanted an audience. Serena kept her arm through his. "Tell them I am occupied." The guard looked at him, understood the message, and bowed. Crown Spire had officially started. Watching his wife, Serena preferred making them wait while she annoyed him. Priorities he could respect. Before the guard left, Serena handed him a medicine vial. "This will restore Darren's eyes," Serena instructed. "Give it to Clifton as payment for supporting Austin." Then Serena smiled, adding to also tell him Austin thinks his smile looks like a creep practicing in a mirror. He said it looked rehearsed, he corrected, claiming his version was far more accurate. The message went out that evening in Serena's guest pavilion. The same guard reported back to Serena and him. Darren's sight had returned within minutes. Clifton had tested his son's vision in front of Orson, thanked Serena's guard, and kept smiling while the insult was read aloud. Clifton kept smiling until Serena's guard reached the pavilion gate. Then the incense box cracked loudly behind him. Darren asked who had insulted his father. Before the guard stepped outside, Clifton ordered Darren to stay quiet and keep his restored eyes lowered around Serena. Clifton got his son's sight back and swallowed Serena's insult in front of Orson. Fair trade. Olivia's growth remained unexplained. Crown Spire was watching it, and Serena kept buying reasons to stay close. He thought the paid friendship deal was under control. Then Olivia opened a hot-ring door and found Serena wrapped directly around his afternoon. The following afternoon at Hottering outside the capital, Olivia kicked the private door open. Serena was wrapped around his arm. He was fully dressed. Robe, trousers, boots, dignity. All present, that did not help. Olivia froze the spring before either of them spoke. Ice climbed the walls. The door cracked under her hand. McKenna and Bridget stood behind his wife, both wearing the expressions of witnesses who, even with different assignments, Serena kept her arm hooked tightly through his, saying you came sooner than expected, so Olivia stepped across the ice, demanding her hands from her husband. Serena only leaned closer, claiming he approved her hand. There are definitely guilty rooms, but this particular one took the absolute crown, Olivia pointed at McKenna and Bridget, telling Austin to watch. McKenna glanced at his soaked boots. He seemed calm, but Bridget folded her arms, claiming his clothes suggested fear. Just financial discipline, Austin corrected, but neither woman respected that distinction. Olivia crossed the room to inspect him herself, her gaze sweeping from his collar down to his boots, stopping on Serena's fingers. Olivia asked if he kept every layer. Every heroic one, Austin answered, before Serena tapped his sleeve, saying he treats fabric like a sacred oath. Olivia brushed ice from his shoulder, saying for once his cowardice was actually useful. That simple touch made Serena's smile sharpen instantly. Austin's wife had confirmed his innocence and marked her territory all at once. Very efficient jealousy. 2 minutes earlier, Olivia had reached the hot ring because the first attendant recognized Serena and sent word to the palace. McKenna and Bridget followed close behind her down the outer hallway. Before Olivia opened the door, all three heard Serena arguing with Austin inside. Serena splashed water at his boots, demanding he shed a layer. He refused, so she tried for a single boot. Again, he said no. When she begged for a glove, he pointed out he wasn't wearing any. Serena smiled, claiming they were making progress, then moved closer and asked for permission to hold his arm, so he allowed the exact contact listed in their contract. Then she pressed against his side and begged for another kiss, though only one was the agreement, he reminded her. Serena just smiled, teasing that agreements can be upgraded. He warned her that Olivia reads every upgrade. Outside the door, his wife heard the whole refusal, so Olivia knew he had kept his boundaries. She also watched Serena cling to him through a cracked screen. Fair Innocence still looked pretty terrible in a hot drink. Back in the frozen room, McKenna covered her mouth when Austin explained the contract, telling Olivia he was just making money. McKenna failed, first laughing into her fist, while Bridget lasted only 3 seconds longer. Your Highness, this might be the worst financial defense ever attempted, but Austin funded an orphanage, he reminded them. Olivia just stared at Serena's arm with his sleeve. Serena answered for him, saying the sleeve was complimentary. Olivia's eyes narrowed, accusing Serena of buying his time and dragging him into a bath. But he wore boots, Serena replied, claiming she suffered too. Olivia then looked at him. She reminded him he promised to disclose every meeting, but this was on the schedule, he answered. Olivia tapped the frozen floor. The schedule only said afternoon discussion. Serena spread her hand toward the spring, claiming they discussed his terrible bathing habits. McKenna turned to Bridget, asking if this even counted as diplomacy. Bridget watched Olivia's freezing power crack the floor. It counted as their evacuation warning. Serena lifted her chin, knowing Austin chose Olivia as his wife. Olivia's expression softened for half a second, but then Serena added he also chose to kiss her. The softness died instantly. Honestly, Serena could find the one loose board in any peaceful conversation and jump right on it. With both feet, his wife turned to him, commanding Austin to stay put. Looking at the ice around his legs, he noted her order had strong support. Then Olivia faced. Olivia taunts Serena, saying she offered him wealth because she could not earn his loyalty. Serena releases his arm and steps onto the ice, snapping that Olivia only summoned him because she could not keep her throne without a husband. Olivia's jaw tightens, but Serena, she only asked him to choose her, while Olivia threw him in bed before introductions. In response, Olivia raises a single finger, igniting a summoning circle. Serena mocks her bedroom summoning, and Olivia's golden power flares to life. Romantic kidnapping or political necessity, Serena decides, as Olivia's golden power spreads through the frozen spring. Serena's dark pressure answers, and the husband steps between them, suggesting they settle this over lunch. Both empresses bark at him to move. Same timing, same word, a terrible sign. Instantly, the ice explodes as McKenna grabs his left arm. Bridget grabs his right. They pull him through the doorway as Olivia and Serena launch through the roof. the Hotring follows them upward. In a storm of shattered ice, while retreat attendants sprint down the mountain. Carrying towels, fruit trays, and one useless chair, nobody dares to ask why. Two empresses are literally tearing the sky apart. No explanation is needed here. A private fight is clearly over when the towels evacuate first. McKenna plants the survival talisman and the shield expands around them. Bridget pulls 3 stunned attendants inside right before the first shockwave hits. The guardrail shatters behind them. This martial duel has quickly turned a private scandal into a regional weather event. High above the mountain retreat, his wife and the second Empress stop pretending this is just an argument. Olivia begins in the 9th realm, but Serena is already in the 10th. That single-level gap means Serena can overpower Olivia directly, and their first clash proves it. Olivia forms a brilliant golden blade and drives forward. Serena catches it against a black barrier, turns her shoulder and kicks Olivia across the sky. Olivia strikes a ridge hard enough to split it. Below, McKenna draws her sword, asking if they should help. Bridget watches Serena erase Olivia's second attack, questioning with what. McKenna offers encouragement. He raises his hand, warning that nobody enters that air. McKenna looks at him, noting he could stop them, but then he'd have to explain himself. He tells her. She lowers her sword, acknowledging the impossible situation. Serena strikes first again, and Olivia tries to seize the pace, driving 3 golden slashes upward, forcing Serena to block instead of attacking. The first cut cracks Serena's barrier, the second pushes her back, and the third nearly reaches her shoulder. Serena's smile vanishes. She stops treating Olivia like a simple, angry wife and starts treating her as a mortal enemy. Dark barriers emerge around Olivia, closing in from 4 sides. Olivia slices through one, but Serena comes straight through the opening, driving an elbow into her guard. Olivia falls but catches herself and attacks from below. Serena bends backward to let the blade pass, then strikes Olivia's shoulder with 2 fingers, cracking her golden armor. His wife hits the ground on one knee. Below them, McKenna presses both hands against the talisman. The shield buckles under the shock. Bridget takes the other side and yells for the attendants to stay down. Serena won that exchange, but the cost falls on everyone beneath them. The husband slowly tightens his fist. A single strike from him would end the danger, but it would also shatter Olivia's belief that he is just an unusual husband with suspicious luck, so he stays perfectly still. He hated every second. Serena hovered above, demanding surrender. As Olivia rose, Serena's next slash opened the mountain behind her. Olivia blocked it, but the impact forced blood from the corner of her mouth. This fight was getting way too real. Baxter appeared beside Austin in her dark-clad avatar. Only he could see her unless she chose otherwise. She warned him that Empress Olivia's energy was dangerously overfilled. Austin watched Serena strike again. Golden light burst from Olivia's skin instead of staying trapped inside her. Baxter tracked the release. Each impact forced excess energy through her channels. The pressure was already building beforehand, explaining Olivia's impossible growth. It also meant interrupting too early could leave the overload inside her. He hated the answer. He let the fight continue. Serena surrounded Olivia with 6 illusions. Every copy attacked from a different angle. Olivia blocked 2, dodged 1, and took the 4th strike across her back. The last 2 were false. Serena appeared above her and drove her toward the ground. The mountain shook, then Baxter's gaze moved beyond the battlefield. 27 hostile signatures, she reported. Around the retreat, thin silhouettes had appeared on distant ridges, trees, and clouds. Baxter counted them one by one inside Austin's mind. 7 on the northern ridge, 6 hidden among the pines, 8 above the cloud line, 6 spread behind the retreat. 27 total, a complete kill circle. They kept outside the duel's light, their weapons faced inward. The clash had drawn predators from higher realms. They were waiting for both women to weaken. One watcher raised a hand. The other 26 shifted with him. He read the formation. They were waiting for jealousy to weaken both women before closing the ring. Austin marked every heartbeat and stayed beside McKenna. If he moved too early, the watchers would scatter. If he waited too long, Olivia and Serena would become easy targets. Austin had to time this perfectly, waiting for the weapons to rise. Above them, Serena caught Olivia by the wrist and threw her across the valley. Olivia broke through 3 rock walls before stopping. Serena landed in front of her, telling Olivia she could never protect him. Olivia pushed herself upright. Serena raised her blade, telling her to yield to clear the excess energy from her body, warning that continuing would destroy her. Olivia looked past her toward Austin. The battlefield went quiet enough for her voice to carry. Austin came to Brighton alone, Olivia told Serena. So did she, even with it. Palace around her, Serena lowered her blade by 1 inch. Olivia continued, saying he stayed when he could have left. He gave her a family that was hers by choice. She straightened despite her broken armor. He was her husband, and she would not surrender. Golden energy erupted from Olivia's body. The remaining excess tore through every cracked channel at once. Serena jumped back as a pillar of light split. The cloud's armor formed around Olivia in bright plates, a golden dragon uncoiled behind her and opened its eyes. The whole valley bowed under the pressure. Olivia had reached the 10th realm. The breakthrough pushed one clean wave across the valley. McKenna's talisman stopped shaking, cracks in Olivia's armor closed under fresh gold. Serena lowered her weapon for one breath and looked at Olivia with real respect. Then both women remembered the argument. McKenna forgot to breathe. Bridget lowered her sword, stepping forward in the silence. During their marriage dispute, Austin watched his wife, Olivia, rise beside the giant dragon. Serena's surprise lasted only 1 second before she smiled and called out. Olivia raised her blade, telling her opponent to stop hiding behind the realm gap. Serena unleashed her full power, dark wings of energy spreading out behind her. Every illusion sharpened as the sky between both women twisted with equal force. Serena lost all effortless control as Olivia forced the second Empress to go all in. 27 watchers chose that moment to attack, their weapons flashing along the perimeter. Austin stepped away from McKenna and ordered her to stay close to Bridget. McKenna grabbed his sleeve, demanding to know where he was going to stop them. Austin vanished instantly. The first watcher used the chaotic duel to hide his movements. His weapon aimed directly at Serena's back from Olivia's side of the valley. That angle would leave Olivia carrying the blame, but he never saw Austin coming. Austin struck once and moved away before the assassin's body even hit the ground. The second watcher had already released a deadly blade of light toward Olivia. Austin caught the light, redirected it, and reached the enemy before he could react. He heard their blood run cold before their feet could even move. The remaining attackers abandoned their stealth and fled across separate ridges. They fired together, forming a deadly ring of attacks around the entire valley. Each strike covered the escape of the next, showing highly disciplined teamwork. Against Austin, they were just 27 fools, volunteering their exact locations. He crossed the circle faster than their weapons could even close in. They tracked a wounded Empress and an exhausted rival, completely ignoring him. None noticed the supposedly useless husband behind them before 27 signatures vanished. No blast reached the mountain retreat, and no warning ever reached Olivia. The duel continued across the sky, while the second battlefield ended silently below. Suddenly, Austin looked at his hands and saw blood marking his fingers. The mountain retreat vanished, and he smelled the concrete training yard on Earth. Austin heard numbered children moving into lines as his body awaited the next order. Then Baxter appeared right in front of him and caught his wrist. Calling him Austin instead of his title, she reminded him of where he was. He chose this fight, and nobody had ordered him to do it. Baxter assured him that Olivia, Serena, McKenna, and Bridget were all waiting. The training yard faded, and Austin wiped his hands on a watcher's robe. He returned to the retreat just as McKenna finished turning toward the ridge. McKenna frowned and accused him of leaving, but Austin simply claimed he walked quickly. Bridget looked at his clean hands and the empty perimeter, understanding everything. She stopped asking as Olivia's golden dragon crashed into Serena's illusions above. Both empresses were alive, stronger, and still absolutely furious at each other. Austin had removed 27 assassins silently, but now he had to stop them. He needed to end this clash without unleashing his devastating, world-ending power. Above them, both women turned toward the capital and raised their weapons again. Their next strike would fall directly over the outer farms of Brighton. Seconds after Austin returned to the ruined retreat, Olivia's dragon tore forward. It shattered Serena's final illusion wall, but she countered with a dark blade. The strike severed the dragon's tail, as both exhausted women refused to yield. Olivia hovered above the ruined retreat in her cracked golden armor. Serena faced her with one dark wing flickering behind her. Serena looked Olivia over. Serena called her armor dramatic. Olivia lifted her blade, snapping that she needed 6 illusions to look impressive. Serena claimed her copies had much better posture. Olivia countered that Serena's real body needed help. Two 10th realm empresses, one broken. Valley and their grand duel had devolved into incredibly petty insults. McKenna gripped her survival talisman tight, whispering that the fighters were losing energy. Bridget watched another ridge collapse, noting the mountain itself would break first. Olivia charged and Serena met her halfway. Their weapons clashed once and the retreat's remaining windows shattered inward. Olivia's massive golden dragon wrapped around Serena's barrier, squeezing until dark cracks raced across its surface. Serena quickly split into 12 copies before the shield failed, each one pointing directly at Olivia. Serena asked which one looked better. Olivia sliced through 11 illusions, choosing the silent one. The real Serena materialized above her, driving her feet straight into Olivia's guard. Olivia caught the blow, spun, and hurled Serena into the cloud line. For one glorious second, his wife had the upper hand. Then Serena weaponized the entire cloud, creating a storm of black blades. McKenna expanded the talisman shield once more. Bridget dragged the remaining attendants behind a solid stone wall. The blades fell around them, slicing trees and tearing open the road. Bridget stared at the capital, warning that another heavy exchange would reach the city. Outer Farms, their chaotic relationship drama was dangerously close to destroying Brighton's outer territories. He shouted both names, but Olivia ignored him while Serena attacked even harder. He yelled again that the Watchers were gone, but Olivia simply drove Serena through a cloud. She can stop, Serena sneered, appearing behind her. Your husband asked her first. Great, his peace offer had officially become ammunition. McKenna urged him to use pressure, but he refused, saying it exposed too much. Bridget pointed up, suggesting he use marriage instead. He stared, and the widowed commander shrugged. Both women wanted his attention, and he just had to give it to them. Bridget had just suggested emotional sabotage against two powerful empresses. Honestly, it was a solid plan. He flew up, moving directly between them. Serena's black blades halted around him. Olivia's golden dragon reared behind his back. Both women had enough control to avoid hitting him, but neither had the patience to listen. Olivia stopped her blade near his shoulder. Serena's dark barrier closed behind his back. Enough, he ordered, but both answered at once. Move, and move he did, straight down. He cut all supportive magic beneath his feet, threw his arms wide, and let himself plummet. He slowed his breathing, rolling his shoulder like a stray blow had hit him. Cheap acting, but highly effective. He called Olivia. His wife's face changed. Serena's did too. Both empresses instantly abandoned their duel. Olivia reached him from the left. Serena flew in from the right. Each caught one arm before he dropped 20 feet. The golden dragon vanished. Serena's illusions vanished. The entire battle stopped because gravity had apparently defeated the strongest man present. Beautiful, he was almost ashamed of how well it worked. A plan is desperate when gravity becomes the best diplomat. Olivia pulled him close, asking if he was hurt, while Serena checked his chest and shoulders, asking where the attack landed. Austin cracked open one eye, emotionally drained. Both women froze while McKenna covered her face below them. Bridget muttered that he chose fraud. Austin smiled at Olivia, saying her armor looked incredible. He then turned to Serena, noting her wings were also quite impressive, and admitting his mistake. Olivia released his arm, and Serena released the other. He dropped the remaining 6 feet, landing flat on his back. Olivia crossed her arms, calling him a fake. He argued he was preventing regional damage. Told Olivia. Serena landed beside her, pointing out he then complimented them both. Austin insisted he was just de-escalating, but Olivia claimed he was only shopping for forgiveness. Austin immediately offered Olivia jewelry, but she told him to keep it and explain why Serena deserved that praise. Next, he offered Serena a new hot ring, but Serena said he could drown in it, then asked why Olivia's armor received the first compliment. Austin tried offering them separate palaces, but Olivia called that blatant bribery and Serena called it insufficient. Yet they reunited through shared disappointment in him. Talk about progress. Technically, the rivalry ended, but his approval rating crashed hard. Down below, the terrified retreat attendants finally began cheering because the sky stopped attacking them, but then they saw both empresses pointing directly at Austin, and the cheering instantly died. An attendant carried his boots to McKenna, whispering to ask if the prince lost a war. McKenna replied quietly, "Domestic one." Olivia pointed down the road, declaring he was not sleeping in her room tonight. Serena lifted her chin, adding that he was also barred from her guest pavilion. He looked between them, arguing he saved them both. Olivia shot back that he manipulated them, and Serena added he did it badly. McKenna walked over and patted his shoulder, congratulating him for saving the valley but losing every bedroom. Bridget raised a hand, offering her spare room near the city wall. Hearing this, Olivia and Serena both listened in, but neither objected. Talk about ruthless family support. Later that night, at Bridget's damaged house near the city wall, Austin lay on a thin futon beneath a patched ceiling. One side of the house still bore heavy cracks from the earlier poison attack. Bridget had offered him the only intact room, then slipped out for night duty before palace gossip could reach him. Suddenly, Baxter appeared by the futon in her dark avatar, quietly offering her standard sleep assistance. But Austin refused, saying the blood trigger had passed. He still wanted to stay awake and choose the right moment himself. Baxter nodded once and sat by the door. Near midnight, 3 soft knocks echoed. Austin opened the door to find Olivia holding a covered tray. His wife wore a simple cloak over her sleeping robe. No guards, no wine. Her face was dangerously calm as she announced she came to continue his punishment. Austin lifted the tray cover, revealing roasted meat, fresh noodles, and sweet cakes filling the dishes. Calling it incredibly cruel, he joked he might never recover. Olivia stepped inside and kicked the door shut. She quietly sat on the edge of the futon, claiming he embarrassed her. He argued he prevented a war. Olivia pointed at his shoulder, accusing him of faking injuries. He reminded her it stopped there. Fight. Olivia pulled the blanket from beneath him, folding it with highly aggressive precision, admitting she heard him reject Serena before opening the door. Austin waited silently. Olivia's fingers tightened. She confessed she knew he had kept their agreement, but still hated seeing Serena hold him. That was her raw honesty, given without a throne or an audience. Smiling, Austin gently moved the food tray closer. He tells her to be angry, but to keep the mountain destruction lower next time. Olivia frowns, claiming Serena started it, but he reminds her that she froze the building. She looks away, muttering the door was already weak, as his war goddess prepares to rewrite history. He sits beside her, admitting he could not stop either of them with raw force. Olivia looks back, telling him he should have trusted her more, but he remains silent. She quickly opens the food, slides a bowl between them, and demands that he feed her. He notes that sounds like forgiveness, but Olivia calls it surveillance instead. Offering her a bite, he watches as she eats without breaking eye contact. He offers another bite, and this time she leans in closer as the space feels smaller. To be fair, his wife had arrived after midnight wearing silk and demanding food. The entire situation is highly charged as he reaches out for a third bite. Suddenly, the chopsticks slip right out of his fingers and slide under the futon. Olivia stares at his empty hand and accuses him of doing that on purpose. He claims it is unproven, but she points out he can catch arrows in the dark. Chopsticks are unpredictable, he argues, which finally coaxes a soft smile from Olivia. Lifting another piece of food, he asks if he can feed her another way. Olivia locks eyes, setting the rule of 1 bite and deciding when it ends as he nods. She takes the food directly from his mouth, their lips meeting for just 1 short breath. Blushing, Olivia pulls back, pure victory. He reaches for more. Olivia grabs his wrist to remind him of the 1 bite limit, but he challenges her. She nods, recovers the chopsticks, and decides to feed him the next piece instead. Declaring his punishment complete, she feeds him, just as the door suddenly swings open. Serena stands outside holding 6 pots of wine, looking from Olivia to the food. Serena accuses Olivia of banishing him, but Olivia quickly covers up the tray. She claims she only came to supervise his punishment, but Serena points at the noodles. Olivia quickly explains he simply fears hunger, as Serena steps inside with the wine. Serena decides she will supervise as well, making him eye those 6 pots warily. Sitting down, Serena suggests they need a contest that will not destroy the surrounding geography. Olivia glances at the wall and quickly agrees. Serena slides a cup over, and his wife accepts, starting a whole new battle. The 2 empresses replace deadly aerial combat with a massive drinking game. Simple rules: they challenge each other's claims, and whoever fails to answer must drink. He has to pour because they decide the disputed husband should serve them. Serena proudly claims 3 private afternoons with him. Olivia counters that she shares his palace title and bed, forcing Serena to drink. Hearing about his first kiss, Serena just smiles and claims permission for hers. After Olivia drinks, Serena leans in to ask him who looked better at the hot drink. He fills both cups, no luck. They make him drink instead. Under this terrible system, Serena cools her wine inside a perfect crystal cup. She boasts of refined control, but Olivia heats the cup until the wine steams. Olivia calls Serena delicate, prompting Serena to freeze his cup in response. Olivia warms it back up without looking, proving even his drinks have chosen sides. Serena drinks without blinking, then freezes Olivia's next cup flat to the table. Olivia simply cuts the wood around it and lifts the entire chunk up. He quickly replaces the table with an old chest before things get worse. Women noticed. Olivia boasted that Austin had chosen Brighton as family, while Serena insisted he accepted her funding because he respected her cause. Then Serena claimed he smiled during their kiss. Olivia countered that he froze when she wore her armor. Both claims were unfortunately accurate, so he poured himself a cup of wine. Silence. The witness chose to remain quiet. Both women rejected his legal strategy. Olivia asked who he trusted with Brighton. Austin named her. Serena asked who he trusted with Westmere's rebuilding funds. Austin named her too. They glared, both pleased and offended by the split decision. Whenever one lost a point, she demanded another cup and changed the rules. Soon, the 6 pots became 8 when Serena grabbed 2 more. The fight stayed sharp, but the anger was fading fast. Near dawn, under the tree outside Bridget's house, Olivia stopped mid-boast. She stared into her cup, whispering that her parents had vanished and her brothers had died before she took the throne. Every palace room still felt empty. Serena lowered her wine as Olivia continued, explaining that she had built Brighton because ruling was the only thing left that needed her. Nobody laughed. Serena sat beside her, admitting her own parents had killed each other. Her siblings were gone, Westmere had fallen, and every survivor expected her to rebuild it. Her voice stayed steady until the very end, when it cracked. Olivia reached out and Serena held on. The rivals who tried to destroy each other now wept together beneath the same tree. Olivia held her even tighter. Serena stopped pulling away. Austin quietly carried them both inside. Olivia clung to Serena's sleeve, while Serena held tightly to Olivia's wrist. He placed them on the bed, tucked them in, and cleared away the wine. Baxter silently helped clean the room. By the next morning, sunlight hit the bed before either empress woke up. Olivia and Serena were tangled in the same blanket. They opened their eyes, turned around, and accidentally kissed. Both froze. Then they separated so fast the bed frame cracked. Olivia snapped that Serena had kissed her, but Serena wiped her mouth, claiming Olivia had attacked while she was asleep and stolen the blanket. Their emotional bond lasted exactly 8 seconds before pride restarted the war. Austin retreated to the kitchen to make instant noodles. At breakfast, Olivia and Serena immediately fought over his bowl. Serena reached for the seat beside him, but Olivia snatched the chair away. Serena then dragged a second one over. Chair right next to his other shoulder. He ate between 2 empresses who had temporary truce and immediately weaponized seating. You see, pieces fragile when chairs become ammunition. Olivia added meat, calling it proper palace food, while Serena added rare herbs, calling Olivia's meat cheap peasant seasoning. He ate both quickly before they could weaponize breakfast. Then Olivia looked at Serena and decided that she should move into the palace. Serena blinked in surprise. Olivia noted that she was alone, adding that she refused to let her schedule secret meetings with her husband. Serena smiled. Calling it compassion with surveillance was very royal. Olivia looked at the empty guest seat, repeating that since Westmere left her alone, she had empty rooms. Serena's smile softened, but Olivia added, "It must be far from Austin's room." Serena's soft look turns into a smirk. Olivia points her chopsticks, calling her out. Before her husband can even raise the offer, Serena pulls her chair closer. She accepts, with another empress joining his household. He immediately looks over at Baxter. Did he record this? Baxter confirms the feed was running early. Traitorous assistant, perfect archive. Serena's smile fades. As breakfast ends, she looks straight at Olivia, tapping one finger against the table. Serena warns that since she lives here now, they must see what Crown Spire built. Family ties. Later, they gather inside the palace dining room. Returning from the guest quarters, Serena brings back a beautiful, polished piece of pale jade. Placing it down, her smile fades as she introduces the innate stone. Westmere kept this. It records ancient bloodline histories. Ordinary records can't hold them. The moment Olivia touches it, the jade reacts. Light floods the table. A tiny, floating image of Brighton appears. Sitting beside Olivia, she explains how some worlds lose too much of their heavenly law. Broken worlds decay. Above Brighton, the sky cracks. Pointing at the cracks, Serena explains what happens when natural laws fail. The strongest faction can easily rewrite borders, records, and inheritance in the chaos. Old maps fade away beneath newer versions, shifting Brighton's exact place in different centuries. Only the newest map matches the palace they are in. Olivia watches the projection closely. She touches her coronation seal in the projection. It shatters. Her memories are completely real, but the official history around her has been carefully manufactured. Factions easily rewrite history inside these broken worlds. Serena explains that Crown Spire, the faction watching her grow, did exactly that. The projection shifts to show a long line of past rulers. Half of them have no graves. Many have childhood records that contradict their official portraits. Names and buildings swap places in the archive. Olivia stares in shock. She realizes Brighton's history was entirely manufactured. Serena confirms the throne, the bloodline, and their past are all staged. His wife had survived brutal wars, deadly poison, and court betrayals to rule this land. Yet this jade proves her vast empire is nothing but an artificial stage. Keeping her hands steady on the table, she demands to see the project. The jade obeys. The capital vanishes, replaced by a glowing dragon crystal that cracks open. Inside lies a tiny baby. Serena points at the child, revealing he became her father. Olivia's chair scrapes back. Serena advises taking this one fact at a time. Crown Spire found that crystal. Soon, a demon faction and an Eastern empire joined. These three powerful groups raised the child inside a carefully controlled environment. They handed him a throne, chose all his allies, and fabricated his entire royal history. All of this was to let his bloodline mature under their watchful eyes. 2 royal heirs died for this plot. The jade projects 2 empty cradles. The image fades. Olivia grips the edge of the table tightly. This scene shifts again. The dragon child is now a fully grown king. Unseen hands manipulate his wife, his children, and everyone around him. Every enemy and ally was orchestrated. Olivia watches her father's engineered life. His entire existence was a map. Suddenly, a tiny light appears inside her image. Serena explains calmly that an innate embryo has finally awakened inside her. Inside her, Olivia stared at the light as Serena explained the dark rule plainly. The embryo would drain all of Brighton's accumulated destiny. Every field and living soul would feed it. When the process finished, the entire empire would perish and Olivia with it. The map's projection clearly demonstrated that cost. Light floated up from houses and soldiers across the tiny map, every glowing strand. Entered the embryo, the cities dimmed. Olivia quickly pulled her hand from the jade, but those strands kept tracking her image. Silence fell as the jade spun above the table. Her husband took her hand, finding it freezing cold. How long, he asked. Serena shook her head, explaining the ancient records gave no safe date. It awakened much earlier than Crown Spire expected. This growth incredibly dangerous. Her power surged because the entity inside her was already feeding. Olivia looked across her projected empire. Her people were born into this trap, yet they still chose you, her husband reassured her. As she looked up, he continued, Crown Spire built the cage, but Brighton filled it with real families. She squeezed his hand tighter. Serena tapped the jade, suggesting her parents might have escaped, Serena suggested, as a third projection appeared. It showed her father beside a woman's shape as a silver hand ripped open space. To drag them away, that is where the record ends, Serena explained. It never showed their deaths. Olivia leaned toward the glowing light. So they could still be alive somewhere, Serena noted. Olivia reached for the image, her fingers slipping right through. Suddenly, the ancient jade shifted one final time, showing a dragon falling beneath a mountain as its body melted into the land. Serena pointed to the ridge above that became Brighton Ridge. The beast's blood had soaked the soil and water for generations. That explained the giant pigs, aggressive chickens, and spiritrich fish raised around the ridge. Believe it or not, his overpriced pigs were actually dragon. Serena gave him a flat stare. Quite a selective conclusion. It's one conclusion, he admitted. Olivia laughed softly through wet eyes. The room needed air. The pigs finally contributed something besides another invoice. You can judge his priorities after the empire survives, her husband teased, turning to his wife. Your father escaped their control. Your parents may still be alive. We will find them. The projection then shifted back to the dragon child. Olivia watched it fade, whispering that he never had a real throne. He found a family anyway, her husband replied. He got the premium husband package. Before his own time, Olivia squeezed his hand painfully hard. To punish the joke, first they had to find a cure. Olivia needed immense strength to resist the embryo, and he needed its creators out of her life. Serena almost smiled. Then Olivia named a date that connected all. 3 of them. Olivia explained she had nearly died 4 years ago during the struggle that put her on the throne, when enemies sealed the palace doors and cut her off. A sudden silver light shattered a wall, letting Regina reach her. Serena froze. She had nearly died that exact same year. Enemies had trapped her during Westmimir's fall. A silver force opened a path through their formation, giving her enough time to escape. Neither woman had seen their savior, but both remembered that cold light. Talk about a massive mystery. It was that same feeling of escaping death, reminding Austin of his old hunts on Earth. 4 years ago, right before his final guild chase, a silver-haired woman had appeared during a sudden ambush. She easily carved a path through people who had trained right alongside him, then vanished before he could follow. He never saw her name. He noted her eyes looked just like Olivia's. Olivia leaned in as Austin studied Serena. Her eyebrows were a perfect match for Serena's. Both women stared, and Olivia narrowed her eyes, teasing that he remembered her face very clearly. Serena folded her arms, especially the attractive parts. Austin protested that he was just describing evidence, but Olivia replied that he started with her hair. He reminded her she had silver hair. Serena smiled, teasing that he was defending the mystery woman. A potential link across worlds had become another flirting accusation. His household was fully operational, and Baxter made her dark avatar appear beside the table, offering to explain Empress Olivia's sudden growth. A set of readings materialized above her palm as Baxter introduced the soul affinity rule, built on trust, repeated protection, and proximity, which let the body absorb far more energy without granting control or forcing any emotions. Olivia's reading burned highest. Serena's formed below it, still enormous. Their repeated choices under pressure had accelerated Olivia's growth, and it began affecting Serena as well. Baxter projected one extra line, showing protection increased the score faster than simple proximity. That explained why every crisis had fueled Olivia's rapid growth. Then Harrison's stored reading appeared at 90%. Serena tapped her own reading, claiming hers would rise. Olivia pushed the display away, mentioning reports from another wing of the palace. Austin stared at it, and honestly, his chef trusted him more than either. Empress Olivia looked offended, while Serena looked personally challenged by middle-aged cook. Baxter clarified that Minister Harrison's score came from family loyalty, repeated protection, shared resources, and food. Austin nodded at the numbers, joking that food-based attachment was the strongest framework there. That joke ended when Baxter pointed back to the embryo, explaining that affinity explained the growth, but did not remove the actual threat. The project had begun roughly a century ago, and reaching its original creators might require travel through time or another domain. Olivia stared at the projected child while Serena closed her hand around the innate jade, noting that the current crown spire branch still guarded the records in the harvest plan. That gave Austin someone reachable. He asked if everyone in the current branch knew. Serena replied that they did not, explaining some simply inherited the institution. Only inner elders guarded the project. He would give the branch a chance to separate ignorance from choice. He stood, but Olivia caught his sleeve. Austin quietly reassured her that he was not leaving yet. That held true for the next several hours. By sunset, Olivia had run the jade through every image twice. The embryo kept glowing, but her parents' trail ended beyond the domain. The silver-haired woman remained nameless, and Olivia eventually set the jade down. Serena opened the wine. He stayed until both women fell asleep beside the jade, one on the couch and the other across the bed. Olivia's hand still rested over the image of her parents, while Serena slept holding the map to Crown Spire. Near midnight, Austin quietly moved inside Olivia's palace room. He summoned McKenna and Bridget. McKenna arrived fully armored, while Bridget entered with her sword already drawn. Handing them the room, he ordered them to guard Olivia and Serena. Nobody enters and nobody follows him. McKenna looks at the sleeping empresses, then at the paired jade key in his hand, asking where he's going. Crown Spire, he answers, opening Serena's map to find which mountain holds their branch. McKenna points to a northern route used by military couriers, indicating this one where Crown Spire controls the summit. Bridget lowers her sword by an inch. He tells Bridget that he's offering them 2 chances to correct their crimes. McKenna stares at him, pointing out that he buried kidnappers under a mountain. They had chances, he tells McKenna. Bridget counts on her fingers, Crimson Tower. When under a lake, the poison elder lost 3 mountains, and Black Hollow Hall went. Through portals, different circumstances, he tells Bridget, as McKenna looks at Bridget declaring Crown Spire is cooked. He points at her, this is why. She's staying behind. McKenna lifts her chin, claiming she's correct. Is it because she enjoys destruction too much, he asks. Bridget nods in complete agreement. Their confidence in his mercy is both insulting and totally evidence-based. He takes Serena's map, Olivia's jade key, and leaves before either woman can volunteer. Before dawn at the foot of Crown Spire's mountain branch, he hears voices echoing through the stone. His hearing reaches the summit way before he does. An unnamed elder stands inside the upper hall. A guard reports that Olivia's pretty-faced husband has arrived alone carrying her jade. The elder laughs. Another man warns that Olivia's jade should have remained safe inside the royal vault. The elder dismisses him, saying the pretty-faced husband probably stole it to look important. Make him climb, the elder orders. If he wants answers, he can crawl to them. Then the elder speaks to the people around him. The Dragon Project has matured for a century, he says. Every law and royal succession pushed the bloodline right where they needed it. The embryo woke early, but the harvest can still succeed. Another voice asks what will happen to Olivia. The elder answers without hesitation, refine the host and embryo into an elixir. His daughter will take it and bear the pure bloodline herself. Several elders voice agreement and nobody objects. The elder heard the cost and approved the harvest anyway. He stands below the first stair and decides on 2 chances. 1 chance to recognize the crime, 1 chance to correct it. A gatekeeper opens the mountain path and looks down at his royal clothes. Crown Spire forbids flight, he announces. Climb for 1 hour if he wants the elder's attention. He could have reached the summit before the man's next breath. Instead, he suppresses his power and walks. Every step counts, every minute counts. The gatekeeper follows far enough to enjoy the humiliation, calling him Olivia's decorative husband and asking if his legs are tired. Halfway up, he offers to carry the jade. If he admits the Empress sent him to beg, my wife sent me nowhere, he tells him. The gatekeeper laughs harder, but he keeps climbing, just trying to be fair. The performance deserved an award. 1 hour later, he reaches the summit. The elder waits in the main hall with his followers arranged behind him. He looks at the jade key, then at him. His followers make the same calculation. Crown Spire has trusted for a century. Olivia's husband has no visible cultivation. He had climbed instead of flying, arriving without any soldiers. Several elders relax, laughing before their leader even speaks. They really have no clue. Called him useless again. Perfect. They built a whole nation around a dragon bloodline, yet completely misread the quiet husband standing in their hall. The elder mocked the useless prince for finally arriving, asking if his empress sent him to beg for her history. Stopping before his seat, the husband warned they already wasted their very first chance. The elder's smile thinned, asking if it was for making him climb. No, the prince replied, for answering before hearing the question. The elder looked at his followers. Several smiled on command, foolishly believing that humiliation can change the truth, the husband added. The elder sneered that he knew nothing of truth. He dropped Olivia's jade key on the stone floor, a tiny sound. But every smile behind the elder instantly vanished. He nudged it forward, stating Olivia trusted him with their fabricated family secrets. Crownspire found a dragon child to build Brighton around him. The elder froze. They rewrote the royal records using a demon faction and an entire Eastern Empire to control his life. Absolute silence behind him. They even killed 2 royal heirs inside the project, planting an innate embryo in Olivia, expecting it to consume Brighton's destiny. The elder's fingers tightened on his chair. The husband took a step closer, exposing their plan to refine his wife into an elixir so their daughter could steal the bloodline. Confidence completely gone. Their grand scheme had survived a whole century because every victim knew only one piece. But now, Olivia's useless husband walked in holding every piece. You have only 1 chance left, he warned.